man in front of me shouldn't need any introduction, but he is the designer behind some of the coolest shit going on right now.
Thank you, thank
A little
you.
polarizing, you know. He was behind the Kendrick Lamar Not Like Us stuff. He did, you know, some of the pieces that he designed were on that. And most importantly, some of the stuff for his Super Bowl announcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
He also drives a Ford truck,
I do.
loves the vintage,
Oh, yeah.
smells like gasoline sometimes.
There we go. Is that
Living
true?
the life. No, I don't know. Maybe.
I was like, it might be.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
But his name is Sully.
Yes, sir.
He is the designer of Kalo soil.
Correct.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you for coming to the podcast.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, man. I mean, I think it's a long time
Likewise.
coming. We did talk about having you on the pod, but I've learned that after having a couple episodes, I was like, I want to make sure that when people come in, there's a relationship
Yeah,
prior to, you know, having you here.
100%.
Like in the beginning, I wanted to have people just come in and just be like, oh yeah, I don't know who you are, and just
Yeah.
talk. But it's like, nah, I want to know who you are prior to having you on here.
Yeah,
So then that way it's easier for us to have a conversation.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just printing patterns when we first started
Really?
talking about it. Yeah, well, I was just coming in and we were like doing patterns and stuff like
yeah,
that.
that's right.
It was that, and then like grading some patterns that we were working on, but that was it. So
Yeah.
that made sense. When that conversation first started, we weren't even doing any like production or anything.
Nothing.
So that makes perfect sense.
And then also too, because of you, we get a lot of people that are like, oh, hey, so I saw your video about the Kalo 3D thing, and so can I bring
Really?
some yeah, they're like, oh yeah, that guy, you know, Sully, you know, like, can he, yeah, I know he's bringing you stuff, so can we bring you stuff? And I'm
Wow.
like, no.
Did that open up a door?
Yeah, a door that I didn't want, and I closed it, and I
Yeah.
was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
I
that
was
makes
like,
sense.
it's a nightmare because you don't know how to make patterns, and
Yeah.
like you're just doing shit,
Yeah.
and so definitely not.
Yeah.
You know, so I had to close that door right away.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? But
Yeah, it could be a little bit disastrous for sure.
yeah, I mean, you still enjoy the program, you still use it all
Dude,
the time.
I love it. Honestly, it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot more people using it
Yeah.
than I thought. Like, and I don't know. I stopped using the 3D aspect of it
Yeah.
completely. Like, I like pretty much just treat it as like just a computerized like piece of paper that I can like sketch on.
Yeah.
Versus like
Drawing it out.
right.
Yeah.
And then being able to print it. It's so nice. But yeah, honestly, like it especially when I've like once we've kind of worked through all the kinks that you and I figured out when we were like, oh, this doesn't. Somehow it's shrinking like an eighth of an inch on every width, everything.
Yeah.
All that weird stuff that was happening. Once we figured that stuff out, now I'm like it works really well. But yeah, it's taken a lot of playing with for sure. I've been using it for like a year now.
And that's pretty standard when you're taking anything from one place to another.
Yeah.
Like even when we have files that are DXF files that someone will give us,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go with this, because
Yeah.
it's like it's not gonna be right. It's gonna be fucked up. That's why it's such a nightmare. In China, I feel like they easily do that. Where they'll have what they do over there that we can do here, but only some people do that. Where I could buy this like card that will allow me to have all the programs. So it's like not legal, but I could have all the programs, and I could take in any file, in any format, and like work on it.
What?
Yeah, it's like a hack that they have for these programs.
That's insane.
And like I've been offered, they're like, you want it? And I'm just like, I mean, yeah.
Wow.
They're like they're not like fucking around. Like it's like it's
Yeah.
a business, you know?
Yeah.
But my business isn't to
crazy.
print patterns.
No.
So I was just like, no, not really. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick to StyleCAD.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll just do this and
Yeah.
and I'll do it our way, just because I don't want a bunch of different files. Then I open up another door of like people just being like, oh yeah, here's the file, and like, can you work on it? And it's never right.
Dang. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
brutal.
So, and then that's why we got that new printer too. That's my guy.
Oh, that is new.
Brand new.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, brand new to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a 2-head
Wow.
cartridge, and so just to put it in perspective, when I was doing like big markers that were like 10 yards, so a production marker would be 10 yards.
Yeah.
It would take me 45 to 50 minutes.
Holy crap.
That thing, I timed it. 8 minutes and 11 seconds.
Wow. That is absurd.
That's insane.
That is so stupid.
So I don't have to like plan my day anymore. I'm just like, and then the other cool thing is that
That's
my
nuts.
other plotter had a take-up bar.
Yeah.
Meaning that I would have to roll up the paper, and then just to do any type of print.
Yeah.
This one, it could just
It does it itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. It like hangs off the edge right here.
Yeah, and if I want to roll it up, then I could do that. But if I just want to do one little single printout, it's fucking easy.
Wow.
And remember last time we were talking that the style CAD thing, and you were like, I'm interested to see how much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I talked to I still call her my teacher. So my teacher, and then they're doing subscription type of, style CAD.
Yeah.
And I think she said it's something like $120.
No way. Yeah, because clothes $50
a
month. It's not that far off.
So I want to say it's $120, and then they also offer you free training.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I might have to do that because I'm like, Clo works, but it's not really like, it's not woven into the industry yet. Like it's like you don't really know, like people can't take that and then like
but
immediately flow into something with it.
Like what you would do is, let's just say you get on the subscription.
Yeah.
You would still draft your patterns on paper.
Yeah.
You would switch. You would actually switch. You would then start drafting your patterns on paper, but only half of it. So you're not like, so just to make sure that you're still doing things right.
Yeah.
Then you computerize everything. And then after it's computerized, digitized.
Yeah.
Then you would only work on that file.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like you do have to go back to make sure that the pattern itself is still being done by hand.
That makes sense.
Just because on the computer, you can do it, but the scaling visually, it doesn't look the same. Like a quarter could look like big or small.
Yeah.
A quarter and a half could look identical.
Yeah.
So then it's easier just to do a pattern on paper.
Yeah.
Make sure it looks right, and then digitize it.
That makes sense.
And then do that.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't done a paper pattern in a minute. Dude.
Yeah.
It's been like a year, actually.
Really?
Yeah, since I started playing with Kalo, that's probably, maybe since January.
Oh, okay.
January, I have not touched a paper pattern once.
Well, that's the way I would recommend it. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you find your own flow.
Yeah.
I mean, some patterns I would do on the computer, but most of the time,
yeah,
we just kind of do them on paper.
Yeah.
But if you did, I have that plotter that you could pretty much have.
Dude, yeah. I might, honestly.
Yeah.
That thing would be nice. I've run out of space. I have my garage that I'm working out of, so like it's chaos in there. Like absolute chaos. All I have is the Juki too. Like it's not really that much machinery, but I have, like I said, patterns everywhere. Like hanging from everything I've found that could hang and hold patterns.
Yeah.
And it was already like, I moved into this house and I have like a few other roommates. One of the girls that lives there, it was her family house. And so her dad used that garage as like a workshop. So he has like
already kind of set up.
It was already chaos, but he like cleared out the floor for me pretty much, like where all the walls were covered, but like the floor space was fine. So I could kind of like set stuff up in the room, and it is already at like full capacity again.
Damn.
Yeah. It's fabric everywhere, patterns everywhere. It's insane. So I don't know where I gotta get things sorted out and figure out where to put stuff.
I mean, that thing could just go up against a wall, pretty much.
Yeah.
Dude, and you just need your laptop.
Yeah.
The program you don't need a crazy computer.
Yeah.
The files are tiny.
Yeah.
Like all my client files that I had, I think it was a total of, with all my work, and I'm talking all the client files, all the printouts, every single thing. I think it was 900 megabytes.
Wow.
And it was like, I'm talking about a bunch of information.
Wow.
The files are tiny.
That is crazy.
So you don't really need that much space, like on a computer,
insane.
Computer-wise.
Yeah.
But then for that, you would just need that.
And it just sends it right over to it in a print.
Yeah, I would show you how to set it up. You just connect the cable. It's like a monitor cable, like a VGA.
Yeah.
You connect it all the way to the printer, and then.
Wow.
Yeah, I put it back there just because I was gonna throw it out, and then I was like, I feel like someone could use it.
Yeah.
And then so I might put it on OfferUp.
Yeah.
Just to take. I don't really need to sell it. It's just because it's an older plotter, so it works great.
Wasn't it pretty expensive when you got it?
When I got it for a really good deal.
Oh, okay.
So the thing about big equipment is that it's really hard to sell.
Yeah. I found that when I was trying to sell my DTG printer.
Oh, there you go.
Dude. I mean, like an expensive machine. Like when I bought it, it was like 15 grand.
Yeah.
I could not sell the thing to anyone, anywhere at all.
That's tough.
Nobody would buy it.
Yeah.
I ended up like, I think one guy, I was in a building over here on Town Avenue.
Yeah.
And I just ended up being like, well, I don't need this DTG printer anymore. I want to do like, I was done really doing prints, really all embellishment. Like I didn't want to do embroidery or prints. And I was like, I don't need this thing. And I was also like, not really doing a whole lot of sewing. So I was like, well, I guess just might as well like tried to sell it to somebody. So I put up a sign in the building I was in,
Yeah.
and just like, hey, like I literally listed DTG printer.
Someone buy.
Yeah, I did English and Spanish because so many people in the building did production. And then one guy, he was a rapper. He was in the building on the fourth, like the top floor. He was living there. Weren't supposed to live there at all, but he was living in the building. And he just like came up to me one day and he's like, "Is this yours?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "How does it work?" And I was like, "It's really easy. You put something on there and then it just like prints, and you can print anything." And I like showed him, like I gave an example, and I was like, "To be honest though, the head of the printer needs a little work. Like it was sitting for a little bit, so it's probably like gonna need some repair and like a little bit of work." And he was like, "Can you do that?" And I was like, no, I'm trying to sell it as is. He's like, "All right," took it. I don't know if that guy ever used that printer ever.
Really?
Probably very unlikely, actually. Yeah.
And that's when I did my research on DTGs. It was like if you buy the really good ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what the brand was. It wasn't. Was it Brother? No, it was
Epson.
Epson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the issue was that they're great,
Yeah.
but you have to run them every day.
All the time.
Yeah,
Or
all
that
the time.
the head gets clogged,
Yeah.
and it's $2,000 to fix it.
So it's like every day, no matter what, you got to print.
Yep. Which I was using it every day, and then I went like 6 months where like it really wasn't getting used all that consistently, and then the print started to get a little weird. So I think it was kind of starting to get a little bit clogged up just from like sitting.
Yeah.
And then I tried so many things to like try to clean it out before it was like
didn't work.
totally just destroyed. And
Yeah.
nothing at all. But it was a good machine. But yeah, you're right. Getting like when you have big machinery like that, like it's not.
It's
the
tough.
thing that is good though is Jukies and stuff like that. It's like the best investment ever. They don't go down in value.
No.
You could flip it the next day,
Dude,
same amount of money.
Yeah, I had the Juki automatic, which is like one of the green heads.
Yeah.
You know, so now they're all white, but it was one of the green heads.
Yeah.
I mean, they still sell for maybe like $500.
Yeah.
And they've been selling for $500 since 2016.
Yep.
When I first bought mine.
It's crazy, dude.
It's just like, and
I've never
2024
lost money buying a piece of like a Juki or any kind of real machine. Like you have it and then you sell it. You can sell it for the same amount. It's pretty
Even the
insane.
ones that we get, they're used. So my guy, you know, Luis.
Yeah.
So, he'll buy them from factories that close down.
Yeah.
And then he'll like refurbish them, and then they're ready for another fucking 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And even then, they've already been running for X amount of time.
Dude, I met a crazy machine guy the other day.
Really?
So I'm like obviously living in Agora Hills, so to come all the way down here for stuff is pretty insane. And I just had like I used the Juki for everything, but then I had like a Singer Heavy Duty that I've had forever, and then this little Bernina that I've had for a long time too. Stopped using them a while back. You remember that? I was telling you, I was like, literally when we first met, I was just like still running on the Singer and making everything on that, and then I think the Bernina crapped out on me, and then the Singer also just started just like everything breaks. It just does. It's not built to like really withstand and take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so there's a machine repair guy over in Woodland Hills. I got there. He's 70-something years old.
Jesus.
This dude has 10 peacocks in his front yard. Just like literally a cage of peacocks that he was talking to, and like they knew he had names for all of them.
So random.
Insane. And then he goes back in the room, and I mean, not a whole lot of English, honestly.
Yeah.
But he like just.
What, does he speak Spanish?
But he didn't try to speak Spanish at all, because I know a little bit of Spanish,
Yeah.
but not like, I mean, like I can kind of hold my own,
Yeah.
but like he didn't even try to speak Spanish. He was just, and like crazy, crazy dude. It was insane. I think we were there for like 45 minutes, and all I was trying to do is like get these machines repaired, because he did it for like a friend too. So I was like, well, it was nuts.
But did he have any more machines, or is that just?
Yeah, he had great machines, honestly. Yeah, like he was, but the whole time he was trying to sell me other machines, and I was like, all I need is, these
like,
repaired,
sir,
and then
I
I'll
just
come
wanna get
back,
my
and
shit
like,
fixed.
then we can eventually get the buttonhole machine and the walking foot and the, like he literally showed me every machine he had in the entire place. And it was in this like outdoor shed, and they were all just like covered in all kinds of shit, just like dust and layers of like, yeah, it was nuts.
I feel like sometimes people like that just want to talk. I went to go pick up that air purifier back there.
Air purifier.
Yeah, you see that back there?
do?
That
It's
big,
just-
you see it?
No.
All back there on the left.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's called negative air filter.
Yeah. Your purifier.
Yeah, so I went to go pick that negative air. They're called negative air purifier, and they just clean up air.
What does that mean?
Well, it's just it's like an air purifier, but like commercial use.
Okay.
So then that way, it just kind of cleans up the dust, you know, because it was getting kind of crazy.
Okay. That makes sense.
It doesn't, like, it's not night and day, but we let
Yeah.
it run all day.
Yeah.
And it just kind of helps. Takes out germs, so in case they're coughing.
That makes sense.
And then we set it back there with all the jersey.
That
Anyways,
makes
the point of my story is that when I went to go pick it up,
Yeah.
the guy just ended up talking forever.
Yeah.
About what he used it for, his job, and he had a bunch of shit in the back. He had like
Yeah.
tractors, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm selling this and I'm selling that." I'm just like,
It's awesome,
okay.
dude.
I'm like, okay.
That is awesome.
I'm like, all right. I'm just trying to buy this. So
Yeah.
He's like, if you want, I'll give you the deal for the other one. I was like, well, let me just get the one first and like see what the fuck's going on before I commit to buying another
That
one.
is insane, dude. I love that. Dude, it's like, it's tough when that happens and you're like wanting to, like you have something else that you
Yeah.
need to do, which is I feel like most often the case. Whenever
Yeah.
whenever I meet somebody like that like just wants to yap about
Yeah, whatever's going
nonsense,
on.
whatever they're thinking about, whatever's going on, their life story, all that stuff. I'm like, it almost always happens when I have like something else
Yeah.
that I'm like trying, like somewhere else I need to be or something like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. Like I want to, you know,
I want to be a dick, but like I
Yeah.
kind of have to go.
I really gotta go.
Yeah.
I can't sit here for.
He's like, no,
an
but
hour
listen
of
to
this
this. Listen to
story.
this. So
Yeah.
like we disconnected the switch, so that way it's hardwired because people would come by and turn
Yeah.
it off, and I'm like, can I buy it or not?
Yeah, dude, insane. Yeah, that the Peacock, man, with the machines, that was like that was the most recent one of those for me, and I was like, I might just, you know what? How many times am I gonna be in this situation? Might as well lean into it for a second. And I
Yeah.
did. I just let him go and
Okay.
watched him talk to the peacocks. There were some on the roof of his house. He had
That's
a cage
insane.
set up,
Yeah.
and then like you'd hear something move on the roof, and then he'd be like, "Oh yeah," and then like walk outside and like say something to him, and
That's Belma up there.
yeah, dude, it was crazy, so insane. That's good life experience, though. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, it's just like, oh shit, am I gonna turn into that guy that just like
Yeah.
yaps all the time?
Yeah. No, I know. I got to think about that often because I'm like, I get so nerded out about stuff that like imagine another like 60 years of being like really nerdy about
Certain, machines,
right
sewing,
and then
just
you like just want everyone to know about that thing that
Yeah.
you know about, and then you end up becoming that guy.
It's
you
like,
know?
listen, young man.
100%. Yeah.
That's how I feel sometimes too, because I'm always older than anyone that I work with.
Yeah.
Handful. Yeah, pretty much, except for one client.
Yeah.
Oh, Noel.
He started working with you?
Yeah.
Sick.
How do you know him?
Dude, okay, so there's this guy that I, like a year ago, started making clothing for him.
Yeah.
He's a musician, and he, like, just, I don't know, he hit me up, and he just wanted, like, custom wardrobe for tour and stuff like that, so I started doing that, and then he and I became friends, and I've been working with him for, like a year, just making stuff for him
shit.
for whatever he needs. And anyways, he hits me up a few months ago, and he's like, yo, my buddy Noel, he's a producer, he, like, really needs to get some stuff done, and you're the only guy that I know that does clothing. Would you be down to like hop on the phone and just kind of like loop him in and like
Yeah.
help him out? And I was like, for sure. So we got on the phone, and then anyways, then I was like, well, I only know one other guy that really can take this on and like do what you need him to do, because he was talking about doing like production and
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, dude, I would love to help you with like anything on the creative or the ideas or patterns, whatever you might need, but like I'm not gonna do the production. So I
Yeah.
was like, I gotta send this over to you. And then him and I met and got coffee and came in here that one day. That was it.
Oh shit.
Literally my only time ever in person meeting. I mean, on the phone, dude's voice sounds like so much different. Like you meet someone, their voice just really does not match like
Yeah.
their face.
Yeah.
And that's that guy. It was all. I was like, wow. I was at a coffee shop looking for him, and I was like, I'm looking for like from his voice, it sounds like somebody who's been at the beach surfing for years.
for a while, yeah.
Like he sounds like, yeah, dude, like it's so spacey in the way that he talks.
Yeah.
That like I was expecting that kind of guy, and then I met him, I'm like this.
He's like, he has this.
He's like a punk, like
Yeah,
kind of
punk,
serious.
serious, mysterious.
Yeah.
With the glasses.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that. Well, for me, it was the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I met him first.
Yeah.
And then when we got on the phone, it clicked, because I already knew the voice. But I could only imagine in your situation when you're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that's not
The
what
voice and then meeting him was off, but it was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good that he's doing stuff here now.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
he's super cool. Like we've been working on his stuff that he wanted to do, the prints and stuff.
Yeah.
And like just doing a couple of those samples.
That's cool.
he seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Like just like you know, like kind of like you and I. It's just like I like working with people where it's like cool. We have a relationship. It's fun.
Yeah.
And like for him, I got the same feeling as well.
Yeah.
He said he got involved with, unfortunately, like someone that he didn't want to work with anymore. So he had invested in a bunch of fabric.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
told me that.
So he's like, I bought like a couple 100 yards of fabric, and I was like, why would you do that?
Dude, but it happens. My first thing when I was talking to him, I was like, I mean, it's really easy, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Because the same thing happened to me. Like when I first moved out here, I did not know anything at all about making clothes. Nothing. I knew nothing about the industry too. I was fresh out of high school. So like just jumped straight out here. And then like the first factory I ended up working with, great people, like really had good intentions.
Yeah.
I knew nothing. So it was like things are being explained to me that I am also paying for at the same time. And I was going so fast that like, you're not even really aware of the decisions you're making. It's like, okay, yeah, a couple 100 yards sounds good. Not even realize, like you're not, it's just like, this guy says that's right. I trust this guy. Okay, cool. I'm going to go with that. It's so easy, dude, to get like really quickly like screwed over like that, especially if you're kind of just walking in blindly versus like slowly building your way into it. And then like where I'm at now, I feel so much more comfortable to walk into places and know, I mean, there's still huge things. I'm like gaps in knowledge that I'm learning, but like, I feel more comfortable to walk into those spaces and be like, okay, I'm not going to like pay for something outrageously. Like
I'm not going to be like, hey, if you want us to do your hoodies, you got to get like 1,500 yards.
Right. And then like, have tons of that. Like, but again, I wouldn't have known yield at the very beginning. I would have been like 5 yards for it. That sounds about right to make, you know? And it would make sense if you hadn't like sewn one or like seen it happen. Yeah. So that was the biggest thing with him is I was like, dude, like if anything, if nothing else, just like run through me what's happening so I can like make sure you're not, you know, making any wrong turns because it could cost you years if you like
100%.
Really get tied up, and then sometimes you may not even want to come back to clothes because you're like, dude, I lost so much money. Why would I want to go back to
that man that took the words out of my mouth? That's exactly what I said. Yeah, and it just, even if you do have the money to just spend, it just puts a bad taste in your mouth of like, oh. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've never experienced that because I had like my little machines and I had very little experience with that. Yeah. And then so even me being a manufacturer, so I think the reason why we do things how we do it is because I don't know another manufacturer. So I don't know how they move and I don't know how they think.
Which is cool.
So a lot of them will be like, oh, well, how we make money is that we sell the young talent on buying a bunch of fabric. And like to me, it just doesn't even make sense to me. It's like, I don't want a middleman fabric. That's why I always tell people like, oh,
bring your fabric to me.
Bring your fabric or I'll tell you where you can get your fabric. Yeah. Go order it. Buy it and then bring it to me. Like I don't need a middleman, a situation just to make $1 per yard or two. Yeah. I was like, nah, I don't really care about that. I care about the sewing, what I can control here, and let everyone earn what they want to earn, and like you pay the least amount for the fabric and everything else. But
I remember when that shifted for me too with the price of fabric and like, cause that happened to me, that exact same thing. Yeah. Like I was paying like, I don't know, when I first did production, probably like 12, 15 a yard. Yeah, for like, crazy. Yeah, right.
Unless it's like something.
It was not really anything.
Like French terry, like 12 ounce.
And then like, I remember thinking in my head, because I didn't have any framework for it. I thought denim was going to be so expensive. I was like, it's probably like, you know, 15 a yard. Like there's no, and then I went to like the first time I ever walked into premium denim and they were telling me like $5. I was like, I mean, this was like a year ago. I was like, what? Like, dude, I could make a pair of jeans for $10. That's insane. So I was like, that was when it switched for me. Where I was like, oh my gosh, there's like, I could really, you know, actually do something that I like understand all of the components of this business. Yeah. And then also like learn all the things I need to learn. So I'm not like, I don't know, buying in too deep at any point and like, or just, I don't know, wasting money in any direction or something like that, you know?
And I think for me, like, since I've been on the other side, but not as deep as you or anyone else where they're investing all this on fabric, that I just try to do my part with what I know, but also like I don't want you to spend a bunch of money on shit that you don't really need to. Yeah. So then that's why I've never like, I don't know, when he told me like he he's like, yeah, I got a couple 100 yards. I'm gonna go try to steal it from him. I'm gonna try to steal verbatim. We're laughing about it because he's like, I'm gonna go try to steal some of my own because I paid for it. But it's just awkward that he's not working with him anymore.
Wow.
So he's like, I'm gonna go try to grab some of my own stuff.
That's insane.
And I was just like, oh shit. I was like, but why do you even have that?
Yeah.
Like you know, I worked with him and we did 3 different samples. And then I just pulled a roll from that's why I only work with certain suppliers. So that way I could be like, hey, sell me a roll. Yeah. So I could test. And I'll just pay for the roll. Who cares? If we don't use it for him, I'll use it for something else. Or maybe I'll just make t-shirts. Yeah. So that's why, so I could have these relationships. Yeah. Well, if not, they'll be like, nah, I don't want to sell you anything unless you're buying in bulk. Yeah. So I bought like 2 different rolls to test out some stuff. Yeah. And we're just testing. And I'm not charging him the 50 yards. Yeah. Because I don't know, maybe it's a business thing. Sometimes I question myself in business. I'm like, should I be doing something else to like make more money? Because like it seems like that's now up to this point, I've learned that that's what other manufacturers do. But I'm like, that doesn't fucking make sense to me. I was like, why? No, I was like, no, I'll figure it out another way. Yeah. But I was like, this can't be the way that people move in the industry.
No, the way you do things is so cool. It's very different from like what I first experienced moving out here. Was like, I mean, the first manufacturer and anyone that I'd kind of gotten in contact with thereafter, like, I don't know, it was a different beast. Like it was like very cutthroat and like really had to be on guard. It felt like all the time where I'm like, especially because I got hurt in that space too, where like lost a lot of money and got screwed over in different ways where I was like just naive and didn't really understand. But the way that you do things is really cool. Like I remember like just you even just doing the prints for as long as you did, where I would just like randomly text you and be like, hey, I got some Kalo prints I'm trying to like get done. You're like, and it would be like months where that would happen. And like, but I mean, you had no real like advantage to doing those. Like, I'm sure it makes but like really not like.
Not really.
Not really. Not like really. It's really not that, but it like for me that like that built relationship now where like when production happens, I'm like, there's nobody who I would rather trust to do production, you know, because you're like, you're more concerned with like the health and growth of business rather than like just so I got to get you know what I mean? Right. Like just nickel and diming everyone. Yeah. But that's what like I think really allows like people to, because I mean, any one of the brand, like everyone's like just all in the same boat, like growing and like scaling things up and trying to build something up. And if you're like partnering with them in that, then like, and like really like, you know, exactly what you're doing. Like it's so good, you know?
It's like anything that I can do to try to help. But it's like, but the only thing I always tell people is like, I'm patient with you, you're patient with me. And it's like, but it's a partnership in whatever thing that we do. It's like, you stay loyal to me, I'll stay loyal to you. Yeah. And we work it that way, right? But sometimes it's like, if you're just coming in just to do a job, which I haven't experienced before. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, you're going to go try to, oh, actually I had one guy. Yeah. We did some zip up. And then he only wanted to do like 20 pieces. So then the development, he was just like, it's too expensive. I was like, I know, it's just because 20 is like duplicates, bro. Like, yeah. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, I could only help people as far as like they're willing to go too. And so sometimes our work is good, but a lot of clients maybe aren't there yet. Yeah. And I think that's where it gets a little tough for us as a business because I want to help as much as I can.
100%.
20 pieces is like, fuck, bro. Yeah. Like so then they'll go overseas. And he's like, yeah. And then this has happened last week. And he's like, hey, I'm talking to my manufacturer. And he says that he sewed everything the way that, you know, you gave us the pattern. Mm-hmm. And he added shrinkage. Mm-hmm. And he did the wash. And it's still too big. And he's like, sorry to bug. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know? I was like, okay, well, just so you know, shrinkage is affected by fabric, the wash, and all these things. And if you add how much he added to it. So tell him to adjust the pattern. And then he shows me, and he's like, this is what I told him, and this is what he said. And he showed me a screenshot. He's like, tell him that I did adjust the pattern for shrinkage, and it's still too big. And then I'm like, why am I even having a conversation about like another manufacturer? I was like, well, as a manufacturer, it's your job to adjust patterns. Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like he needs to adjust the pattern
Right.
for whatever he's doing, his sewing style, the fabric, everything. So adjust the pattern? Like,
insane.
am I walking the other guy through like
how to actually do your
job?
You do. Yeah.
I'm like, and I just like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna be cool with people.
Yeah.
But also I'm like,
no, you have to have good proper boundaries too, because you can't just be like, lenient with everything. You know, you have to have like hard nose on stuff still. But I don't know, the way that you do things is definitely like, it's fruitful. Like it allows for people to really like grow and build things up rather than like, you see it like all the brands that have been working in here are like going higher and higher in units, and quality's great. Like everything that is being pumped out is like really, really high quality.
Yeah.
So then customers are happy, and you're not cutting corners. I had like manufacturers that were cutting corners, and I didn't even know. Like using cheaper fabric, like paying for 12-ounce French terry, and then them using 8-ounce sponge fleece.
Oh.
Right. And you're like, I mean, it's all packaged up in plastic, and I'm having like other hands on it too. We had like 8 people at the time, and there was a couple people that were like doing shipping. So I didn't even know that like these were like you would feel it, and like if you felt a 12-ounce and you felt that, you'd know, obviously. But if all you knew is you were picking this one up and shipping it out, you'd have no idea.
Yeah, no.
So all these people are getting like crazy stuff, and I'm not even aware of it. And like that kind of stuff, I don't know. It's tough because then you're not going to build a business that way. It's really going to be tough for like that person then to like keep their clients coming back and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then timing too. Like that's always such a tricky thing, is like
timing's super tricky.
Is delivering things on time for people, especially in the startup phase. Cause like, even whether you do pre-order or whatever, like it's tricky. It's super,
it is.
tough.
And we try to work with the schedule. But I think the part that I've learned, because I haven't been doing this for fucking 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So I've also learned that I need to make sure that we're clear with everyone when we say 2 weeks for it to sew. Mm-hmm. It means that maybe 2 weeks before we already cut it, we prepped it, and everything's ready.
Yeah.
And it's happened with everyone, even with my biggest brands that I work with.
Yeah.
It's just timing. They're like, oh yeah, well I kind of need it now. It's like, well, there's another brand that's doing like this much and they're ahead of you. Yeah. And I can't. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, you said you were going to bring the work, but until it's cut and everything's ready, then like you can't really do anything. Yeah. And I think that's the part where people kind of like, especially when you get into production, people don't really understand the timing. Yeah. But with the relationship, you have these conversations. Yeah. I mean, I think we had a little bit of that where we're like probably, I want to say maybe like a week off. Yeah. Maybe, right? A week, maybe about 2? A week, yeah. And it was a little frustrating. Yeah. And I think, but thank God it wasn't like a monstrous thing where we're like, bro, we're like 4 weeks out.
No, we were chilling. And like the thing, here's what's weird about like production stuff that I really just I don't vibe with at all. I hate it. Is like, I feel like most people, because when I first started working out here, like what was taught to me was show face, and whoever is like showing face and is like the most pushy, that person's going to get their stuff done. Oh yeah. But if everybody does that, it's just like disastrous. It's awful. It's not how you do business. It's horrible.
It's not.
And that's how everyone moved. Like when I first started working, and I was like, okay, well, I got to be downtown every day. I got to go to all my places, and I got to like really, talk. Like I got to be like, all right, do my stuff, And I did that. I drove myself insane. I would come downtown in the morning, and I'd first be at the cut and sew where everything was getting made there. And then I would go from there over to embroidery. And then I would be like, we got to do this. We got to do this. I'd drop stuff off, and I would check on the timing. If they weren't running stuff on like running my stuff, then I would be like, it was just this whole like
it's exhausting,
crazy thing. And so I like adopted that mentality off the jump of like, you have to like push people or they don't go. Yeah. And it's awful. It's such a whack way of like just doing things in general. I hate it. So now I'm like, I don't want to do that with anybody. I just want to have like good communication, know when stuff's supposed to be done, and then it just be done on that day, and super easy. Yeah. And then like also know if like something weird happens where like something does get like pushed a few days or it's done a few days early, whatever. Like just being able to flow with that and not being like I was so stressed out. It was
Yeah,
awful.
no,
It
and
was
I
terrible.
and I think you know how there's like good advice and then like there's advice that could get lost in translation, depending on where you're at, and I think that's probably something like that.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with my mom about it. She was like, "Oh yeah, so this is like a random conversation." She was like, "Yeah, so I listened to this podcast and she was like, it was saying that whenever you work with someone, a client, you should never say thank you, because then you don't want them to feel like you owe them something." And I was like, "Okay," and she was like, "Yeah, so I'm just like letting you know,
Yeah.
you and your sister, because your sister's starting a new business," and I'm like.
Yeah.
I was like, that is literally horrible advice.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I was
Yeah.
like, here's the problem with what you're saying. And she's like, and then I explained to her, and she's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I was like, I know that's the problem, is that whatever you're trying to say,
Yeah.
I can't even translate it right. So then therefore their advice is horrible.
Yeah.
If whatever your advice you're trying to give, you can't repeat it and it makes sense, then
Yeah.
it's shitty advice.
Yeah.
I was like, because I'll tell you from my business and how we've scaled, that's not even how I think. Not
Yeah.
even fucking close.
No way.
You're grateful for every transaction,
Yeah.
and sometimes
Yeah.
you got to turn around and take it up the ass just because you're trying to grow the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just how it goes.
No,
and
that
then you
makes
get
sense.
to a position where you could be like, hey, actually, this is how we have to move because of my business, but you're able to do that.
Yeah.
But never once are you just like, nah, you know what? Yeah, you should be welcome.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, that's not how it ever works.
Yeah.
I was like, because then you create like a relationship with the person and
Yeah.
it's never like that. It's always thankful.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'll tell you, Mom, I was like that even my biggest brand that I've worked with, which is Pool House, we have had conversations prior to anything happening about relying, like, be the arm, be the crutch that you need,
Yeah.
and I'll be the same thing to
Yeah.
you. Right? So it's like, you want to build, you want to do more units, then this is what I'm going to require from you. I'll build it, you
Yeah.
order it.
Yeah.
And even till today, just today, we had this conversation
Wow.
about that. I was like, so it's not, I was like, I don't know where you got this advice, but it's definitely from people who haven't built a business
Yeah.
to any scale to understand that relationships really matter.
Yeah.
And that advice is literally dog shit, Mom.
Yeah.
I was like, get
Yeah.
the fuck out of here. And I think I carry that along to people like you.
Yeah.
We start out printing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what do you need from us, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need to grow your stuff?
Yeah.
And then we just try to figure it out.
Right.
So that makes sense for you, makes sense for the business.
Yeah.
And then we could kind of take it to that like next level.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky with, I think, advice in general, because like you kind of have to filter the lens that person's also speaking from.
Yeah.
Like that's something I've learned is like I really don't like taking advice from like cynical older people. I like listening to
Yeah.
people that are older, and I've met a lot of people along the way, like some of the coolest mentors,
Yeah.
like that have been in this industry for decades and decades. I don't ever want to fall into that cynical like, oh, yeah, like all that
Gotta gatekeep
angry
everything and like
yeah,
don't tell
like,
anyone.
and a lot of that advice also like you have to really I've like had to filter a lot of that stuff out, you know, and there's some gold nuggets in there that like you're like, oh my gosh, like that just shot me up an elevator, you know.
Yeah.
That took you 15 years maybe to learn that one thing.
Yeah.
But then also have to like think about it through the filter of like, you know, whatever they're saying, and like certain advice too. It's like it makes sense in certain contexts, but then you take it over here and it's like
That doesn't really work.
that really doesn't work
Yeah,
here at
because
all.
times could be different, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at certain times in different industries, being tough and being like arrogant could work.
Yeah.
In certain industries where you do have to be a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And in some, maybe it did before, but a lot of times it just doesn't work because
Yeah.
everyone's tired of everyone being a fucking dick.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you act like that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where advice gets a little like, it's like maybe it worked before, but now
Yeah.
it's like, definitely not. I definitely don't want to work with anyone who I don't like, truthfully, it sounds horrible, but it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to work with anyone, truthfully, who I don't really like.
Yeah.
If you do, which sucks because in business you shouldn't really have emotion so attached to it.
Yeah.
But in order for us to try to do the best, there
Yeah.
has to be a little emotion. Like as
For
much as
sure.
I want to say like, no, this is just a job where you ask for something and I deliver.
Mm-hmm.
That only is so true because I care about the project. So
Yeah.
as much as you want to be like, I don't really care. There's no feelings in business.
Yeah.
And what we do, there is feelings.
Yeah.
And I care about your stuff.
Yeah.
And I care about you. And I care to make sure that things are looking right.
Yeah.
And when it's off, then it's like, it's hurtful to me. So that goes the other way where if if you do something that kind of makes our relationship really tough, where I'm like, I don't like your attitude. Like, I don't know why you're communicating to me like this.
Yeah.
Then it makes it like, I don't really want to work with you, dude.
Dude, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
So
that
I
makes
think
perfect sense.
I've learned relationships are super crucial.
Yeah, and you don't want to fall into the trap too of like, with business, like removing the emotion from it too, because like, and that's the delicate balance that I'm still trying to figure out every day. Is like, how do I hold the tension between like strategy and business development and like that, and then also like the feeling that you have with certain things. It's like two elastic bands you're trying to like hold on to. You let go of one, you're gonna get slung this way, and you let go of the other, you're gonna get slung in another direction. Like with the way I've operated over the last like 4 years, like actually I would say more so than the last 2 years. Like things kind of like shot up at the very beginning for me and then crashed down, and then I realized like the only like all like money, whatever was coming from the business as it started off, and like successful business really was like not as gratifying as like how cool it is just to make stuff. Like I realized like, especially with how crazy a lot of the world is, like it's so cool to just be able to make stuff. It's so beautiful. Like just like in that space that's like unknown kind of, and you're like it's so pure. Like the thought of just being like, oh my gosh, I have fabric, I have a thing, I can just like put these things together and sew it, and it's like it's unblemished. Like there's nothing really that like can come in that space.
Like super fulfilling.
Yeah, it's so light and it's so easy to be in that space. And so like a lot of the way that for the last couple of years that I've operated is like I want to make sure I protect that. Like I want to always look at like what I'm working on and what I'm doing with that same lens of like how fun it is just to do that, and then not let, something on the external like finances and whatever like influence or direct what's happening here. Yeah. But it really is, you have to hold that balance. That's what I'm learning too, is like there's,
it's like protect your craft.
Yeah.
And that's where the business side comes in. Protect your craft.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be taken advantage.
Exactly.
By you being a creative and then someone who's actually only looking at business. Yeah. That's where the you get taken advantage of, right? Yeah. So it's like really protect your craft by being your own businessman.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why I love working on my own too. Like it's tough when you start to involve more people. I've always worked in groups of friends, which is also an interesting thing. Like it's been me and then like my friends since high school.
Oh, okay. Which is what's because I know you bring some people here to the shop. Which one have I met him or no?
You met so Hunter is one guy that I've been friends with since high school, and then Dylan. He and I. So that's the three of us that work on Kalo right now. But I mean, it was a group of 8, and we were all from the same city, Lexington, Kentucky. All moved out here together.
Wow.
A couple of the guys moved back to Kentucky, but it was 8 of us. We all lived together, and like we were all working on the business. But I started it originally like myself in high school. It was like a senior like project. Like it was my school project. It was. I had like an hour of like the day in my schedule where I could do like a mentoring thing where I would like. A lot of the kids would do like, oh, I'm going to go mentor, this lawyer because I want to be a lawyer or whatever. Yeah. And then I was like, well, I want to be an entrepreneur, so I don't know where to go. And I want it to be something cool and something that I'm actually excited about. And so I was sitting in the kitchen with Finley and Dylan, my like 2 of my like, closest friends at the time, and I was like, what if we like? Because I was thinking about I had a business I was doing in high school, where we were like, I was reselling stuff. I was always like hustling, like doing that kind of thing, like. I don't know. Just origin story was like I was
what
always
age is
this. So when I first started like really hustling and like doing stuff was probably like 10, 12. Like I mean whatever I could do. I don't know. Like at first it was I remember first one was like with family. Like I would get tickets and I would like sell tickets to my family members to like do things for them. Like I would like like in the house I'd be like I don't know, just weird stuff. Like I would I'll like make your dinner for you and then like sell tickets for stuff. Like just trying to find I loved the idea of like being able to like create opportunity and stuff. Yeah. So then it was that. Then I learned how to make duct tape wallets at some point. I don't know if you remember those things, but dude, you could buy a roll of duct tape and there was like a way to make a pattern where you could like make a wallet out of duct tape. So and then they sold cool duct tape. Like you could get like all different kinds. So
I just bought some duct tape today, like actually because they use them as
you can make a wallet out of it. You really could. It works really well. I made them and I would sell them to everyone. And then silly bands, I got into that. Silly band, and I was selling those. anything. I mean, it was literally anything I had an affinity towards. I would find a way to create money from it. So like literally anything. Oh, and then I got into shoes. Like it was like probably early middle school. I was into like LeBrons, Kobe's, you know, a little bit of Jordans, but it was more so like for me, I was like not in the Jordan world as much as I was in like the LeBron, Kobe, KD, that kind of world. Yeah. Because LeBron was like a hero of mine. Like I loved watching LeBron growing up. Yeah. And so like that got me into the shoes. And then I was like, I love these shoes and I can also make money on this. This is crazy. So that I like really dove into it. I think the first business I started though was right around that time of shoes where I was making custom socks. You remember like when people were wearing like Nike Elites all the time?
Nike Elites?
Like the little, like it looked like an exclamation point on the back of the sock, but it's just like a line and then a couple dots. Yeah. So there was a company that like was doing custom ones that like matched shoe drops that were happening. RC, or was it, no, it was Rock'em Apparel. Rock'em Apparel. And I remember like I obviously was into that too, so I was getting socks and I had the shoes. And I was like, why don't I just make socks? And then one of my friend's moms, this is the coolest thing about like, I don't know, my mom and then her friends. Like I grew up with single mom and like I would lob any idea at her and she would, instead of being like, you're crazy or don't, you know, it was like an instant, like, let's find a way to make that happen. Like I remember very specifically being like, I told my mom, I was really young. I was like, I want to make a submarine. This is one morning before school. I was like 8, sitting in her bed, maybe even younger too. I was sitting in her bed and she was like getting ready for the day. I wasn't doing anything. I was like, just going to like put on a t-shirt and walk out the door. But I was like watching something on the TV and this guy making a submarine, or he's working on a submarine. I was like, Mom, I want to make a submarine. And I gave her the list of things that she had to get at Home Depot. I was like, we need this much metal. We need this much glass. We need these many bolts. I made a real list. And she, instead of being like, you're insane, what are you talking about? Was like, okay, gotcha. Yeah, we'll make a submarine. And I was like, okay, so go to school all happy. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna make a submarine. And then I get home from school that day. I probably had forgotten completely about the idea, but she went and got a model submarine kit and like gave it to me that night and was like, oh wow, you know, like make a submarine. And I was over the moon. I was so excited about it. And that moment like stood out to me. But that was like how my mom was. Like I would say something and she never once was like, you're crazy, or that's out. Like, okay, let's be real though. It was never like this boxing of an idea. It was always like, so yeah, I was like going back to the sock thing. I was like, I want to make socks. And then my mom's like, that's a good idea. And then one of her friends was like, I'll get the thing. I'll get the little heat press. And then we'll find out how to do that. And we start looking it up. And next thing you know, a few weeks later, we're making socks and I'm passing out flyers in school like that. But that was how it like started to build this idea in my head. Like if I had an idea, go do it. You know, don't.
So powerful. Which
is crazy because I realized that like if your parents aren't doing that for you, or you don't have somebody in your corner doing that for you, then you're just susceptible, because everyone else in the world is going to tell you no with whatever idea. Doesn't matter what it is.
They've done it already. It's saturated.
100%. Like imagine if in all of those situations, like all these random little business ideas or like things that I was thinking when I was that young, my mom was like, nah. Dude, you're not gonna do that. Nah, that's you know, you gotta go to school.
A submarine?
You gotta go to school for a submarine. You gotta go become a mechanic. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. You know, and it would build this framework in my head, but she didn't. And it was like, it's amazing. You have to have somebody in your corner that's gonna tell you yes, because everybody else is gonna be telling you no.
That's crazy.
Everyone else. So anyways, the sock thing, shoes, and then randomly I did a lemonade stand for a minute there. I got on the news. I had like a really successful, there was a road in my city where like they closed it off during one summer and I was off school obviously, and so all this traffic got blocked up on the street 2 blocks from my house, and like literally at 5 o'clock it would be like a mile of traffic and they would be standstill because the light was super slow. And so I would go out there at 5 o'clock with my one of my good friends, and we'd make a ton of lemonade, and then we'd have a sign and we'd go all the way through all the traffic.
It's genius.
Dude, crazy money. Like people would be like, it was, I mean, a regular occurrence that you would be selling a cup of lemonade for 50 cents and be getting a $5 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill. And people are like, dude, keep doing it. Especially when you're sweating and you're running around as like a young kid. But yeah, so then from there, I was like, well, that's what I want. I knew by like high school, like I was thinking like, oh, I'll go study business in college, and thank God I didn't do that. But I knew I wanted to do like entrepreneurial stuff. It was just like wired in me, like just to like make stuff and make things happen, especially like in business. I always thought it was so cool. But yeah, senior year, I was like given that, all right, well, you got to mentor somebody. I was like, the only thing I know I'm going to do is probably like make a business and, you know, like that's the plan. So I got to find some, and anyways, I like ended up talking to my friends and being like, okay, what if instead of trying to sell other people's ideas, because I was reselling like shoes still a little bit. I was reselling Supreme for a second, and you're reselling like other people's creative ideas. I was like, why don't we just make our own and then sell that? And they were like, yeah, well, like, how are we going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, what could we make? We can make clothes. And then like literally the idea spawned there, and we were like, I remember calling my buddy. I was like, I think we're going to start making clothes. And he's like, okay, I gotcha. And then got these. I was like a little idea brewing with the
We're
friend
in Kentucky,
group.
bro. You should.
Like, I don't really know how that's gonna look. There was one guy that like, and I didn't even know this at the time, but there was only one other guy that I know that was doing something like that was in my like city. Yeah. And he's actually he's done like really well for himself too. It's Kentucky boy Tyler. I don't know if you know who that is, but he went to my same high school. He's a few grades above me, maybe 4 years above me, something like that. But he's done really, really well too. And now he's out here. He does like I don't know where he does his manufacturing, but it's definitely close by here. He's
Have you like connected with him again?
No, dude. There's a weird little story in the midst of like us moving out here. And
is it like a jealousy thing?
It was a weird like
jealousy competition thing.
I don't know. I actually really don't know what transpired, but he was really like he was the first voice that I had that like. Because we started making clothing, right? And I like pitched the idea to my counselor, and I was like, "Hey, I want to start my own business. It's gonna be a clothing brand." And then they make you write out a list of objectives. They're like, cool. So fill out all these boxes of what you're gonna do. And so I'm like, make and scale clothing brand. And then they're like, okay, how are you gonna break that down by tasks? I'm like, okay, make clothes. Learn how to make clothes. Yeah. Learn how to advertise clothes. Learn how to produce and ship and sell clothing. That was like my like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this over the course of the year. And then they were like, sure, just find a mentor you can say is your mentor. Because I was like, I'm going to do this on my own. And they were like, do you have anybody you could like write down that's like maybe kind of influencing the idea? And I was like, sure, I'll find somebody. And the guy that I ended up writing down was this guy that was a screen printer. It was a really cool situation, actually. They had it was called Makerspace in Lexington, Kentucky, and they would it was this massive warehouse, huge. Yeah. And they had rooms that were dedicated to different crafts. Oh, that's cool. You paid monthly, and you had access to the rooms, and you could just go in there, bring in your own supplies, and work there. Oh, $35 a month. Oh, they had a full screen print setup. They had full, I think it was 4-head rotary print. They had an oven. They had the sinks. They had the burner. They had everything, everything
full
you need.
Setup.
Printer with the transparent paper in there already, like everything you needed. $30 a month. And there were people making Red Bull planes. You know the Red Bull planes where they jump off the cliff and see how far they can go? Dude was in the other room making one of those. There's a guy that did it was everyone doing all kinds of stuff, and it was open 24/7. You can be in there anytime you wanted. So cool. And so I was like, well, the guy that runs that, I'll just put his name down because I was starting to screen print there. Yeah. So I was like, I'll just throw him down. Anyway, so we start making clothes and all that stuff. And that was that was the moment. Like I started learning how to screen print, and then did the first, it was called Unexpected before Kalo Soil. Uh-huh. So did the first Unexpected release, and that was October 2019. I think it was October 1st, 2019. Yeah. It's 5 years ago now, which is crazy. But did the first release, made a website, made a collection. It was I just made graphics and then got blanks and printed on them. But dude, I was so excited about it. I was wearing them every single day. It was it switched to me because I was I knew I wanted to do entrepreneurial stuff, but I think just from my environment of being in school, being around kids that were all applying to college, everyone was going to college. Every single person I knew, all my closest friends, minus the group that I was doing the clothing with, all of my school friends that I was really close with at school were knee deep in college applications and everything. And so all of my framework was I have to go to school and maybe I'll work on something simultaneously because that's how I've always done it, but probably have to go to school first. Yeah. And then I started doing this thing and I was like, dude, I feel like I can just keep doing this thing and I don't need to ever go I literally, here's when my schedule started to work. I would this is senior year. I was in the midst of college applications, still okay, I might as well I've been working all high school to do this. I might as well like put out some good applications. So I applied to like 14 colleges, which is not like, it was a lot of schools. I was like really like, I want to, try my best at this. And then it like slowly started a transition where I was like, okay, school's where I'm probably going to sleep. And then I went to my job. So I was working at like a pizza restaurant so I could like fund the brand. And I was like, and then after the pizza shop, I'll go home and that's when I'll actually work on the brand. So it was like I would be literally up, like I would get home from work at like 9 or 10, be up until 4 a.m., sleep for a few hours. My sister would like shake me awake because I wouldn't get out of bed. And then I'd drive her to school and then go to my school because she went to a school across town, went to my school, and then I would just sleep. I would be like, this is where I'll take my little naps to like just recharge. And I go to work and then work on the brand and repeat. So like it slowly started to transition to that where I was like, I know that I'm gaining more in this 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. than I'm getting the whole day at school. Like I was just like, I'm not going to probably use any of what I'm learning in these classes right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
right
just for what I know, because I knew at that point, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to use this stuff. Still would turn in my homework and do all the things I had to do. Like I wasn't just, dipping on all of it. Yeah. But then it's like right after like second semester rolled around, like the brand had grown. I started posting on TikTok. That was a whole time frame.
That was probably a good era to like start posting, right?
2019. Yeah. It was very early on. I remember.
Damn, it's not even that long ago, to be honest.
No.
Like when you really think about it, because
no.
like the whole COVID shit was 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started right at the beginning of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I was like posting on TikTok.
Yeah.
It was a crazy story too. Like the two friends, Finley and Dylan, that I was working with, I like posted. I was like, guys, I texted our group chat for the business. I was like, guys, we got to get on TikTok. Yeah. I was like, everyone's dancing. I know it's like, and at that time, so cringy. Everyone was like, this is the stupidest thing. Especially guys, like at my high school, everyone was like, this is the dumbest app. Yeah. I'm not getting on here. I'm not doing, and it was like, it was like as crazy as TikTok was, it was right in that pocket of time where it was like people were like brain dead, just like doing these dances and like that was all.
That's why I never got on. I was like,
yeah, exactly. But I was like, it's like the only social media platform that has organic reach right now. Like nothing, like if I would post on Instagram every day, no one's seeing my posts on Instagram. It was getting like 50 likes. And I was like, this is my mother, my grandmother, my 47 other friends. I'm like, I'm not getting any bigger in business at all. Like no one's seeing this stuff. And I was like, and then I would post, I like downloaded TikTok and I was like, okay, it goes to new people immediately. I would post something, and no matter if it was the stupidest thing ever, 30 people that I didn't know would see that. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I have like opportunity to at least get in front of new people. Yeah. So like, we got to start posting on TikTok, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, I'll do it. They're like, I'm not partaking in that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it then. I'm gonna start. And so I did. I started making TikToks. And I had like ideas. I would watch TikTok every day to kind of figure out what was going on. And then I was like, a month into it, of like having the account, I think I'd made like 30 posts. They were horrible, so bad. I was like just trying all kinds of different ideas. I was really just like spraying and praying. I was like, I'm just gonna throw things here, just spaghetti on a wall, see what sticks. Like I had no idea. And then finally, I was like, I feel like if I just like one morning, I was supposed to go into work at the pizza restaurant, and I was like, I feel like if I just told people what I'm doing, because I was making videos that weren't even about clothes. Yeah. I was trying to like get some traction, Yeah. And then I was like, if I just told people what I'm doing, maybe they would buy into the idea. But I haven't even told people what I'm doing. Like I haven't even said I'm a clothing brand, So I made a video, and it was my bathroom mirror, and I was like, hey, I pan the camera in, and I'm like, I started a clothing brand with my 4 friends, and it's like this little text pops up on screen, and then I'm like, and I run it out of my bedroom, and there was designs on the wall and like my little t-shirt rack, and then like all I did at the end of the video was like hit this button to support. And dude, I mean, not kidding. I forgot I posted it. I sat down and working with my mom on this college application, and we were making some good progress. I was like, it was a good conversation. We were like, I don't know, it was a good moment. And then I look at my phone and things keep buzzing. I'm like, what's going on? I would never in a million years have expected any notification to be TikTok. And then I'm like, it kept picking up. And I was like, I would pick up my phone. I'm like, I have 1,000 views on that video. I was like, what? Shit, yeah. Who are these people? Yeah. Like, who's seeing me? And then next thing you know, I got 3,000 views. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not even kidding. My sister was on TikTok too, and she was doing the dances. And I was like, she's going to be so pissed. She's going to be so pissed. Because she was really like on the same wave, like trying to, make TikTok dances blow up with her friends. So I was like, she's going to be so pissed. And then like 10,000 views. I'm at that point, I'm like, Mom, you have no idea what's happening. And then I got an order because I had a website set up. Order from, I don't even remember where. I feel like it was like Nebraska or something like that. And I was like, I don't know anyone there who just bought something. Because the link was on the TikTok too. And so it was a $35 hoodie that I called the painter's hoodie, which was like I literally just covered my hands in screen print ink, and then I just like would pick up the white hoodie and just I would just touch it. I would have all different colors on every finger, and I would just like grab it and throw it around and stuff, and then I'd toss it through the oven. So it just had like screen print ink all over it.
Sick.
And literally that night, so video ended up going to like 500,000 views that night.
Oh shit.
Insane. Like all the people in like my town also saw it because they were like, what the heck? Like, like proximity, it also like pairs you with those kind of videos. And then we had probably like 100, 200 of those orders come over that night for that hoodie, just right off it. But I was like,
and you're like, I have one.
I was like, I mean, I know I can get more blanks, and I have some friends who are going to help me. So I guess we're just going to have to figure out how to ship these things out. So then we started shipping, and that was where it was like, okay. Then I'm like, we're doing TikTok. We're going to post some TikToks. We're going to keep talking about what we're doing on this clothing brand. And that's what we did. Like for the next few months, like I would.
And then everyone else believed you.
Yeah, 100%. Like it went from, up until that point of that TikTok blowing up and like having some kind of traction, like I had my close group of friends that I had been friends with from like throughout all of high school, really. And those people were like good friends. And like they would kind of make fun of it a little bit, but it was like but I knew them, and I was like, dude, like it was never annoying to me. But then I would have like outside of that little inner circle, like friends that I was like kind of close with, and just people that I kind of knew, and those people were just, tearing it apart, jokes all the time. I couldn't walk from one class to the other because it was called unexpected. Couldn't walk from one class to the other without getting like a,
hey, yo, unexpected.
Oh, that was unexpected. Like me just walking around the corner. It was all the time,
That's
dude, like nonstop. And I just put headphones in. I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna. I'm like, this is good. And honestly, like at the time, I wanted it so bad, and I was like, I want to like. It fueled it, dude. Like when people started making fun of it like that, I was like, oh, dude,
watch you wait.
You have no idea what's about to happen. Like you're just feeding me. Like I'm like it started. Like I would literally like I was in this one group chat that I don't think people knew I was in, and there would be like messages in there like. Weirdly, like all the time about it, and they would like send the posts and stuff and be like, wow, look at this guy. And I don't think they knew I was in this group chat or like could see the notifications coming up. And I would see it and be like, oh, this is good. This is really good. Like honestly, it was like, firing me up. I was like, this is awesome. Like they really don't believe in this. That's awesome.
All right, so you start, TikTok starts selling.
Yep.
Everyone starts taking it serious.
Yeah.
And then what goes on after that?
So it was, so that some videos started to like kind of blow up, and people it went from, like, I'm not even kidding, like people who I remember very distinctly like making fun of me and making fun of the idea of making a clothing brand and like all that. Very specifically, like within a month of TikTok really starting to work, coming up to me and be like, dude, like I know I was like making fun of it, but like some of the stuff you're working on now is like actually really cool, And they were like, it was just so weird. I don't know. It was a weird thing for me to like process. But I would always be like, all right, cool. Thank you, dude. Like, I appreciate it. Cause for better or worse, like that really helped a ton. Cause like that person really fed a lot for me to be like, okay, I got to do this. Like I don't know. And it was good. And then, so learned, that was like that little beginning of TikTok span. And then I hadn't really done a release. Like I hadn't done a collection until it was February 2nd, 2020. So COVID's like right around the corner, and we didn't even know. And I was, it was me and same group of guys. We had just Hunter, so who I work with now, like still on Kalo. He had just texted me like 2 weeks before this release, and he was one of the guys that was making fun of it, which I love.
Oh,
because now we work together. But he was making fun of it, and like comes to me, and he's like, dude, so I'm starting to do freelance videography and photography.
Like, oh, really?
He's like, if I do a video for you in the business and you like it, would you be down to do another one and pay me? And I was like, free video.
Yeah.
Why not? You know, and he was a friend. It was like, honestly, like one of my like really close friends. So him making fun of it was never really like a sore spot. It was just like kind of funny. I was like, all right, whatever, dude. And then, anyways, he comes, he does a video because we did this little pop-up in our city, like out of one of our friends' garage. We just like put some t-shirts on a rack and people came and bought them. It was fun. And then it was like a week later that we did it was called Collection 2. So like the first one was that painted hoodie that I was talking about where like it, you know, the TikTok, it like kind of it did well on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then Collection 2, I had the site down for like months, nothing on there when I was like growing. So we had like 60,000 followers on TikTok at this point. It built up really quick.
That's insane.
Yeah. It was like a few months. And next thing you know, it was like 60,000 people. And all I was posting was like me in the basement because I was doing this out of my mom's basement. And it was a mess down there, dude, which I love. Like that's like forever been my way of like, room can't be super clean for me to work in. Like it was chaos. It was awesome. There was clothes everywhere.
Set up like that?
My garage currently is the same way. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like your mom's garage.
No, she moved out of that house, and I had to fly back to clean it up. It was that bad.
Oh
like,
shit.
There was dye and stuff that was on the ground. Like we literally had a mound that was probably 8 feet tall. That was just scraps of fabric and hoodies and like old stuff that we didn't abuse, like all kinds of stuff. It was bad. One corner of the room became like a waste pile that was all the way up to the ceiling. But yeah, anyway, so Hunter hits me up. He's like, oh, I want to do a video. Video happens. We go and we shoot a video like promoing Collection 2. And that video, like Hunter sent it to me and I was genuinely like tearing up. I was like, this is
beautiful.
Nuts. Yeah, like it just to see like this seed of an idea then go through all like even just in that like 6 months I was like this was made fun of. Now it has like some life on it. Like it always had that like drive, but now there's like product that makes sense. And it having somebody else then come in and capture that in a video, you're like, whoa, like this is not just me. Cool it's like there's something here, there's a story. And so anyways, he sent me over that video. I was like, oh my gosh, like we got something like really good here. And so I looked at my friend Finley, who was working with me, and I was like, all right, listen. So I just applied to 14 colleges. And I was planning on going to college, and currently my parents think that's what I'm going to do. But I was like, if this collection does, and I think the number I gave him was $10,000. If it does $10,000 in a month,
love this.
Then I'll take, I'll take a gap year, and you and I just do this. Like we just focus on this, and we keep building this thing. And he's like, all right. So he shakes my hand. He goes, and if it does $30,000, you buy me a Prius. I don't know why he wanted a Prius, but he wanted a Prius. And I was like,
go, baby.
I was like, all right. He's weird. He's weird. He wanted a Prius, which I mean, hey, great car, but it was anyways. So that night, the release happens. We get everyone over, like all the people that had been working on it, like close friends that were like invested. We're all in the basement. Yeah. And I had never done this before, like set up a Shopify website for like a release. So I'm like learning all this stuff on the fly. We're doing product photos, and then we're like one guy's shooting product photos on this table, and then we're like trying to edit it really quick and throw it on. It was chaos, a whole day of just nuts, like crazy stuff. And then we get the website ready, and it's going live at midnight Eastern. And it goes up, and we're all huddled around this computer, like my laptop sitting in the chair in the basement. And no joke, within 10 minutes, it had hit $10,000, just like that. Like off product that was like $40 to like at most $75.
Wow.
So it was like instantaneously we had
units.
Hundreds of orders within minutes. Like our phones were, everyone was signed into the Shopify, like just going. I mean, we're like, my mom bought a bottle of champagne. We were like in high school, but she was like, "Dude, you gotta have it." So we had a champagne bottle, and like we're all just like, I mean, there were videos for that night. Like we're like, it was crazy. It was the coolest thing ever. And like then over the next like 24 hours, the whole website sells out of everything. We had to cut it off. We were like, "Dude, we have 2,000 orders. Like we are making this stuff ourselves." I didn't have a manufacturer. Yeah. I didn't have. I didn't have a screen printer. I didn't have an embroidery person. I had nothing.
Nothing.
I had Joann fabric, and I had Walmart sewing machines, and I had a I found just that week before, I found a guy that had embroidery machines. I found a guy that had like a better home machine, pretty much. That was it. That was all we had. And we had 2,000 orders that all needed print, embroidery, tie-dye. We had to order the blanks, like all this stuff. And so anyways, that was, I go to my principal the next day at school. It was like the next Monday. And I was like, so listen, my school project is now a full-time business. And I don't know how I'm going to be here all 5 days of the week. I really don't have any idea. And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, I mean, this is what school's for, right? So he's like, so this is good. You know, it's good that you're like, we should be like, this is a good thing. He's like, this is honestly great. Just show up 2 days, I guess. Show up this day, and then the rest of the time, just work on your orders.
That's crazy.
And once you get caught up, let us know. And if you're caught up, then we can get back to like a normal schedule. So my attendants at this point, they're like, dude, just do whatever. Like it was the attendance ladies too were like, you could just show up if you want.
That's insane.
And then COVID hits. Not even a week or two later, like school's closed. It's done. And then I'm like, okay. And then word gets around through some friends too, like, you don't have to turn in another assignment all year. Your grades stay the same. From the point that COVID started to the end of the year, your grades don't change. So I'm like,
perfect.
It was the beginning of the semester. I had straight A's. I was like, there we go. Done with high school. I was like, I'm not turning in another thing. So I didn't do any other work. I just went full production mode. I order all the blanks. I order all the hoodies, the t-shirts, I think we did some sweatpants. It was just all like easy kind of streetwear-y kind of stuff. Yeah. Ordered all of it in. I'm not kidding. It was like 40 boxes that were like, I don't even know, probably 2 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet. Maybe a little bit, maybe more rectangular. It was big boxes. 40 of these things show up on my front porch. The next, like, they delivered the next day. So my mom was like cool with it when it was down in the basement. Yeah. It was messy. Next thing you know, my living room in my house was covered. Even the upstairs. There was everything had boxes everywhere. The kitchen, the whole living room, the walk-in space, the upstairs, all the way to my room, the whole basement. Holy boxes were everywhere. There was no space for it. It was like, we had like 2,000 orders. It was probably like 3,000 products that all showed up one day in a house that was not that big and like really not. Wow. Yeah. So then we started. Then we're like, okay, now we got to make everything and ship everything. I'd never shipped really that much stuff. So I went and bought a embroidery machine. I got a Brother 6 needle embroidery machine, which is pretty good machine, honestly, for sampling and stuff. It did everything I needed. But then again, I had 2,000 orders, of which I think probably 1,500 needed embroidery. So it was probably like 2,000 units of embroidery. And one machine.
Each one took like
anywhere from like 6 to 40 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm not exaggerating. And most of the time when I tell this story, people are like, yeah, right. I actually only slept for 4 hours a night for months. Like it was like at least 2 months. Like I would go, my schedule was weird. Like I would stay up until like 4 a.m. and I would like sleep until like 8.
Yeah.
And then I would go all day again. And then I would stay up all the way until like 4 a.m. And like I was like, it was nuts. I was glued to that machine. I would sleep next to the machine and set an alarm so I would keep waking up to change out the hoop just to put a new hoodie on there. Because that's like, we were just, like, I didn't know that there were people that did embroidery. I was just like, well, this is how we're going to have to do this. So we got to do it. And anyways, it took us like a month. We had more people help out at that point. It was like 6 of us in that basement. And there was some of it was kind of cut and sew. Like we were taking like blank hoodies, cutting them up the middle, and then swapping colors out. So it'd be like half would be red, half would be blue, or half would be red and half would be red, or half would be white and red, whatever. So we like swapped out. We were doing that, and then they would have embroidery on each side and ordered tags. Like we were doing it was it was awful quality. Genuinely I was like, oh, like we didn't know quality. We really didn't. We just knew like, okay, this is what we have the means to do and we know how to do. So we would like we didn't have an overlock or like a serger. So we would just like with hoodies, like we would do a little zigzag stitch.
Yeah, it works.
Ish, yeah. Like a little bit. And then do like zigzag stitch to like close stuff up, and then we'd throw a tag on it, do our embroidery, and then pack it up and ship it. And we did 2,000 orders that way. And then over the midst of like that time, immediately as the site went out of stock, like we shut it down. Like we were like, we can't do this. We got to close it down.
You're like, we're out of business too as well.
Yeah, we're like, we got it. And also then you get into that thing too, where then people get pretty upset. Like they're like, where's my stuff? I didn't know how to do customer service. I didn't have an email set up. Yeah. We had no framework at all. So then next thing you know, we open up an email and then there's hundreds and hundreds of emails of people being like, I ordered on this date. It's been 12 days. What's going on? And then I would we'd had to be so overly communicative on Instagram and stuff like that and be like we would go live every day in the basement so people would see that we were actually making orders. Like we would just set up a camera in the corner and overnight there'd be a 12-hour live going like all night long, whatever we were doing, like people on these machines, embroidery going all night long. And people would do like at that time with TikTok, you could get giftings too.
Yeah.
So we would you'd make a little bit of money, like just setting up a camera in the corner. But
I have an idea about that for here, but we'll come back to that. I don't want to mess with you. But just remind me.
It was fun, dude. It was a good time. And then, a month, I don't think I saw my mom or my sister for like a month straight, dude. Like we were in that basement and my sleep schedule was so weird that like I wouldn't really see them ever.
Yeah.
And then we were still posting on TikTok and we had like built up, I think we had like 300,000 followers on TikTok now.
It's insane.
And COVID hits. So then my mom's like, yo, it's just, we can't have all these people coming over because she worked in a hospital. So she's like, we can't have all these people like coming in and out of the house. Like,
that's so crazy.
So it was just me and I still had to finish up orders. And then once I got everything caught up, I got in touch with this manufacturer up in Massachusetts that was I didn't know anything at all. Like I looked up clothing manufacturers on Safari and then I was like, oh, call this person. Called them and they're like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I was explaining what I needed and they're like, yeah, we can do that. And then like gave me a price and I was like, well, that's a lot better than me sewing it, just paying somebody else to do it. And so, anyways, I was like, well, we're gonna do a restock of it was the split hoodie is what we called it. So we set it all up. We got 650 units made up in Massachusetts. Then they shipped to this embroidery person, which we found. So I didn't have to do all the embroidery either. Yeah. We sent it to her. I learned how to then like do actual digitizing for files and make sure artwork was getting over right. She did it. And then COVID's happening. So I'm like, well, we're going to do this restock, and then I guess I'm just going to have to ship all these orders. So we did a restock and sold out of that. And so then I like had to, ship all those orders myself. And then again, it lasted for a while where we were like in pretty intense quarantine. So I was like, well, I'm still working all day long. I might as well start making stuff for like influencers and people that like I that was the next step. Is like our socials are doing good. Like we're growing. What if we started sending stuff to like other people for free? And so or not even for free. At first it was like, I think you have to pay for that. I was like, I don't really know. So I start reaching out and I get this list pulled together and like get in touch with a lot of like managers that I was emailing and just for TikToker people. And like found that, the rates were pretty low and I was like, oh, that probably would work out like pretty well for us. So we did like our first round where we like paid influencers. And then those influencers all posted everything. And then next thing you know, because I was making videos about it too. Next thing you know, everyone that we like wanted to get in touch with that we were going to pay was asking us for stuff. And they were like, all post. And we were like, oh, well, that's
for free? You're like,
a no-brainer. So I'm like DMing everyone and just like getting addresses and sizes. And we did like a whole run of like all the TikTok people. It was like the Charlie, like the D'Amelios. And then it was like Addison Rae and David Dobrik, that kind of vibe, all the Sway guys, and the Hype House people.
Hype House, yeah.
So there's all that stuff. We started sending all them clothes, and they would post for free, dude. Like, every time we sent stuff, we were getting posts, story posts. They would wear it in videos, and we had such we had an audience on TikTok that was tracking all this stuff and knew that we were I was like, today I'm going to make clothes for Addison Rae, and I would explain my process, and I would talk about it, and then I would ship it out, and then people would be like, she would post it, and they're like, dude, I saw the other video, the guy making it. So it was just this free advertising. Like, we were just getting, like, this whole story that people were able to follow.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so, but we had nothing available on the site while this is all happening.
Which is even better.
Right. No one could buy anything.
It's good because it builds up like this. Like.
And everyone, like, there was nothing you could buy. So everyone was like, just following along for the journey. And then my mom was like, okay, COVID's kind of loosened up. You can have the guys back over. And so guys started coming back over. And we were like, well, I was like, because I made custom stuff for all these people. Like, it was like, I would just come up with a new idea or like a new graphic that was specific to that person. like I would look at their account and be like you remember Jaden Hostler, that like Angels and Demon song that he had? Like I would make stuff that would be like our logo, and it would be an angel and a demon, and that would be like the sick, so it would be like finding ways to like make it present collaboratively. And then we had all these ideas, and we're like, dude, we have so much stuff we could do, you know, anything with. And then we put together a little collection, kind of picking our favorites, and then got ready for like our next drop, which was like a month later, I think. We did like all the next month was just us doing promo. And again, mind you, we hadn't released since February, so it was like 4 or 5 months. There was nothing on the site really. And then this release was like the one where I was like, because I had already like, my mom knew at this point, okay, I'm not like, he's like, they were both, my mom and dad were both very supportive. Like I remember calling my dad and be like, hey, I started a clothing brand because he lived in another state. So I was like, I started a clothing brand, do it on social media, and I think I'm going to do that for a living. I'm going to not go to college. And he's like, you can be like one of those YouTube guys? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, sure. I mean, yeah, maybe. He's like, sounds great. Yeah. He's like, because he had like younger kids too. So he was like, I mean, they watch it. They watch this stuff, and those guys are getting paid. So
sure,
do it. You know, no hesitancy. And then my mom was like, go for it, do it. And I was like, all right. And so anyways, but this release was like the real like, okay, like this is cemented. Like it went live, and I had no expectation. I had no idea what was going to happen or what was going to go down at all. And this one went live, and it was like $100,000 in like 5-10 minutes.
Oh shit!
Boom, like that, and like 50 products that we had, and we weren't doing the manufacturing at this point. Like, we were doing some things. Like at that point, we did all the tie dye, and we did it in my backyard, which was fun. We had there was like a grass backyard, and so we would like roll out all the like hoodies and stuff, and then we'd go around with squirt bottles and spray them with dye, and then flip them over. And so we like tanked out like probably 2,000 or 3,000 units of tie dye in my backyard for a few months. And so that release like really like went crazy. And that was the first time I ever got paid too. I mean, everything else before then, like we just kept in the business. Nothing, like no one got paid. And then that release happened, and we were like, well, we probably should pay ourselves. Like, I feel like it's been like almost a year. No one's gotten a dime from anything. We're all like chilling. Like, no one was like, you know, we were all like living at home. So we didn't have like crazy overhead that we were like, so anyways, we ended up like everyone got paid, and then got another release ready. And by that time we're like, well, we're going to move to LA. And so whole group by the end of that summer, it was August, we came out here, we moved to LA. And then from all of that chaos of like trying to figure this whole thing out and having an audience, like built up a platform. We had like 500,000 followers on TikTok, whatever.
That's insane.
Built up that platform, and then we're like, well, we're going to move to Los Angeles. We're all going to live in a house together, and we're going to keep on doing this thing. We had no idea what it was going to look like, no plan. We just knew like better out here than Lexington, Kentucky, you know, for what we want to do. So we got out here, and then we didn't have any manufacturers. We didn't have anything. Yeah. And then pretty soon met manufacturers, met people that could do anything. And that was a crazy moment too, of like being kind of trapped, like no framework for what could happen, to like, now we're in a place where a guy tells us literally anything you want to make, I can make it. Yeah. And you're like, what? Like sure? I can, if I can sketch it, you can just like do that. So anyways, that was that. And then, we all lived in a house together. And
but at what point did you guys become your previous name, which was, what was it? It was
Unexpected
to Kalo Soil.
So,
because was that when you guys moved?
No. When it was out here, it was still Unexpected. So Kalo Soil is only like a year and a half old. Okay. Unexpected went on for like 2-3 years. But what happened?
So we're not even there yet.
No. So what happened was we moved out here. It went crazy. We were already like riding this high, you know, like every release was going bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we get out here, and now we got to manufacture. Now we don't have to sew. Beautiful. Now we don't have to do anything but just focus on promotion. And so that's what we did. Like we really we would design, and like that was where at that point too, for me, like it went from I'm making just something for fun to like, I was so obsessed with the idea of designing. I was like, this is so cool. Yeah. And I wanted to learn everything about it. Like when we first got in touch with our first manufacturer, like he thought I was nuts. I would be there all the time, all the time. Like I would sit there and watch them sew stuff because I'd never seen it before in my life. I would just be there. Like I was the first one there and the last one to leave. That's every crazy. Day. Yeah. He was just like, like,
you have a job or
like,
life?
I was like, I mean, this is it. You know, I was here. This is my job. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sewing anymore, so I might as well be there.
Yeah.
And then I would just kind of float around and like learn from everyone that was there. Like, I was like, what is a pattern? And I would like sit in, they had a whole room of people that worked on patterns. I was like, what are these people doing? I want to know.
Yeah.
And I would like talk to them and I would kind of learn a little bit. And then there was like another couple designers there. And so I'd like befriend them and figure out how they did stuff. And then he would just he started using me as like a runner. He was like, dude, you don't need to sit here. So like, I don't know, go get your stuff from the embroidery guy and then like go get fabric from here. So I started just kind of running around. But that was like, so things were growing. And then like we started doing releases that were like made in US, full cut and sew, our own thing.
Yeah.
And then like we start at the same time, I'm not at the house. There's 7 other dudes at the house and their job just got replaced. They don't need to sew anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're like, what does everybody here do now? And we're like, well, I remember sitting in the living room one morning and no one was awake yet. I was just like sitting on the couch at the house. And I was like, this is a really cool house. We have really funny people in this group. I was like, why don't we just like make it like a content house or something like that? Like, why don't we just like make it like content around us all living together? So we did. And then like that day I got paper, like big sheets of paper, and I covered a wall in the house, like this big, like, I don't know, 15 foot by 10 foot wall, literally covered it with poster paper. And then I got a blue Sharpie and I drew out a whole plan for the whole thing. I was like, so here's the whole new, like, this is the new business plan pretty much. And of that, it was TikTok. And so I was like, you know, setting goals and then like giving kind of figuring out jobs pretty much. Like, how's everyone going to work? And then, I was like, we're going to hit 500,000 followers in the first month of starting this account. And then lo and behold, I think we hit 1 million, like that first month of starting that account. Like we started it. One of the guys was like the guy who shot and edited everything. One guy was working on scripts. And then one guy was like going to do YouTube. Another guy was going to do podcast. One guy was going to work on, you know, customer service and like everyone kind of figured out their place. And then we had a system. So we had like something kind of built that was like ready to go. And then we had one release towards the end of that year where we were like, I mean, it just, like every metric, it was just going up. Like we couldn't produce too much. We were like, every time we were just selling out of stuff. So we were like, well, let's do like, I think we produced in December, like 10,000 units. Wow. Something crazy. It was a lot. It was a lot of units.
Crazy number.
Yeah. It was intense. And like across like 50 SKUs to full size range.
It's crazy.
Yeah, deep, like really deep investment too.
Yeah.
Because we were doing it beforehand. We were not doing it pre-order. We were like, I was like, okay, we've messed up trying to do pre-order every time, and people get upset with us, and you know, we don't want to like piss anyone off. We want to ship really quick. Yeah. And especially because it was a December release too. Yeah. We were like, we have to get things out for Christmas because that's why a lot of people were buying stuff. So 10,000 units.
I can't even imagine.
Which again, I'm 19 years old. I don't even know anything about business. I didn't know anything. I was just like, oh, okay, well, we just sold out 6,000, so now let's do 10,000. Yeah. It was like that simple of a decision. We were just like, all right. And so we did it and put all the money into it, got it all going. And then I think that was the first release that like didn't sell out. And we had a lot of extra inventory. And we were like, ooh, crap. And then our strategy was so like sellout oriented that it was like so important that there was demand that wasn't being met. Like for it to keep scaling, we had to like undersupply where our demand was at. Yeah. That was the first time that like it flipped and we were like, oh crap. Shit. Yeah. So then we had a lot of extra units, and then it was like, okay, so we can't go into another big run of production right off the bat. And so then that was like the start of like, we got to really figure this thing out now. And then we had this guy approach us. He was like an influencer guy, approached us and he wanted to do a collab. And it was going to be like a $500,000 collab that we were like, that he was just like, yeah, let's do it. So nonchalant, super casual, met with his, you know, management, everything. Like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And then got the ball rolling, put money into that. 5 months of contracting goes by. The most absurd thing ever. And then they dip. They stopped responding. We signed a contract next week, never heard anything else. And we were like, what? We had already put money in. Everything was ready to go. Production was already underway. And never heard anything. Months would go by, nothing. And then we'd be like, I mean, we were struggling because we not only that one release went bad, or that investment went bad. And we were like, and they weren't light investments. Like they were big.
Yeah.
This was like big.
It's a lot of units.
A lot of units, a lot of money put into stuff, and we were like, oh wow, now what do we do? You know? And then by that point, we had spent so much time like trying to clean things up from that first year that, you know, 6 months had gone by since a real release that people were even paying attention to. And so it got tough. Like that next year was pretty brutal. Like it was, a few guys ended up having to move home because they were just like, well, if I can't get, I guess pretty much it was back to like, all right, guys, we can't really pay. Like it was like we're back to, we got to go either, you know, we're back to square one. You know, we can't pay everyone, you know, the rate that we were paying everyone beforehand, and we got to like really cut back. And so we tried to figure out how to do that, and like it worked, you know, like the guys that wanted to stay stayed, and like everyone was taken care of. Like we were all good. Everyone was living. We were all living together. So like rent was getting taken care of, food was getting taken care of, but it was just like, we're like, where are we going? You know, it was just very just stagnant. I felt like nothing was really like, the momentum was lost, you know? And so a few of the guys ended up moving home. A few of the guys started working on freelance because they're like, dude, I built so much skill set, learned so many new things. Like I want to start, you know, getting paid for these things while I'm out here. And so then a lot of dudes started doing freelance stuff. You know, 6 months, 8 months later, I'm like fully solo, back on it again, totally myself. And I'm like, wow. Shit. I mean, we went from like an 8-person team, full manufacturing, all that stuff, to like, it was just me again.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that was where like, I mean, it was dark. It was bad. I was really like not doing good, dude. It was rough because I built so much of my identity on this of what was happening that when it all came crashing down, I was like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to like grab onto, you know, like even like doing things creatively at that point for me, I couldn't even get myself to do it. I had no passion behind any of it. There was no heart in it. I was like, when a release had to happen, because that was how it worked at that point. I was like, I have to put something out just so people would see it. And I would just, it was like heartless. Like I would just make a design and then.
It wasn't doing that good even then?
No. I mean, it was doing something. Like it would cover bills, and like I was not like, but there was a point, like it was covering bills, and then eventually it just kept trickling down and down and down. And then I was like, I mean, we had like still like 1 million something followers on TikTok, and like there was still like a good audience, you know, but it kind of just felt like it was disengaged, and our own thing that was happening internally, I think, was very visible, and we weren't even aware of it. We were trying to like kind of keep everyone like, we're doing, like, we're still pushing on this idea. But really what was happening behind the scenes was it was chaos. Like we were like, we don't even, like I had no ideas for clothes, nothing that was exciting me about what we were making. Like it became work. It went from this fun project where we were just having fun to like, this is now work. Wow. And that was brutal, dude. It was tough. And then, so I'm doing it solo. I ended up living on my own in Koreatown for like 2 years. But in that first year was when like very, very slowly I started to like regain passion for clothing, because I downsized everything. So then it became like, okay, I don't have to like, you know, do anything crazy to keep up now. It's like I can live normally. And I had a little studio over on town. This is the one I was telling you about. Like two spots. I had a workspace. I had my apartment. And then like slowly I started to really care about clothing a little by little. Like I got into vintage. That was where vintage came into the play. It was like making clothes was tough for me at the time, but I could look at clothes that I liked and it would inspire me and it would still like feed something in me. So I would go, and then I started like getting into that whole world of like understanding. I like started nerding out about it a little bit. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is how this works. You know, just like the first like time I found a shirt and I was able to identify it was from the 90s. I was like, wow, okay, I found one and it's actually 30 years old. That's crazy. And then, anyways, I started getting into that stuff, and then I think it was, probably 6-8 months. I started like selling it too. Like again, it was back to my roots of like I found something I was passionate about, and now I'm turning it into something that's profitable. And so I started making money on vintage, and then once it started making money, Hunter had been doing freelance for a while at that point, and I was like, I think I was just hanging out with him one day because I was still hanging out with these dudes every day. We lived separate, but it was like these are like it's like family. It was beyond. We went through crazy stuff together, so like I knew like these guys
comfort, you know.
Yeah, so I was with them all the time, and I think one night I was just kind of like, I don't even remember what happened or like what sparked the thought, but there was like this new life of a business idea that we were like, oh, there's something like here that we could actually do together again. Kind of like getting the band back together. We were like, dude, okay, you bring the guitar, and then like we had like an idea, and there was two components that really needed to like work together again. So we started doing vintage, and then that transpired into doing wholesale, which was a funny little stint of time where I was literally like supplying vintage stores around the country.
Oh, shit.
I was buying from rag houses here, and then like buying thousands of units, and then flipping them to other vintage stores, and just kind of middlemanning, like being like the eye that would see something that I liked, and then selling.
I've seen a little of that business. I didn't really understand, but I've seen just a little bit, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, there's wholesalers or dealers for that.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was fun. Like, it was honestly so fun, because pretty much what I did for 6-8 months when I was like still regaining this life around clothing, because I mean that's for me, like, clothing and designing is like what I feel I've been made to do. Like, it's like I love it so much that it felt like this was like the thing that happened for like 6 to 8 months where I was feeling clothes all the time. And I was still like, I mean, I love clothing. So all I was doing is I was like, I like this one. And then I would be like, oh, but I like this one more. I like this about this. I was like in school pretty much for like 8 months of just being like, it was like I was in a library of clothing for just 8 months. And all I would do is just read books every day, just nonstop, touching, feeling, getting ideas, all this stuff. And then finally, like, towards the tail end of that, Hunter and I had like built up a collection of stuff that we were like, dude, this is a lot of fun stuff. Like, I really like all of these things. And then we were like, I don't know what to do with them. So we just was like, well, let's box them up, put them in that corner. We'll have something to do with it eventually. And so like we started to build this like archive or like a collection of things that we were super like, we liked them. They were like things that we just vibed with. And then eventually it just went like out of nowhere, dude. This business is working. And then it was like the rug got swept out from underneath it. Nothing. Like, we could, all of our prices that we were getting jacked up, our clientele wouldn't pay. Like, it was just out of nowhere, this business was like gone. We were like, oh, weird. Okay. But again, like, we were like, well, let's just keep going. Like, we got like, let's keep figuring it out. And then that was where the store came into being. And that was, so this is where Kalo comes in right here.
Okay.
Is we were like, well, we have all this clothing. Let's set up a storefront. Like, why not? Because we started having people asking us to like come and check out for appointments and stuff like that. And we were starting to like kind of get back into the root of like, I don't know, just having some kind of an online presence that was like us, and it was a brand again. We were like trying to kind of bring that back to life. And so the store kind of just felt like the next step. That's when I toured this space, was we were looking for like, we have a lot of wholesale that we're doing. We also want to have a place that we could like section off for like a store kind of vibe where people could come and shop. And then that was where we found that place over in El Sereno.
Oh yeah.
And so then, moved in there. And that was like, I mean, no joke. When we found that spot, I hadn't really done anything creative for a while that was like a creative project, Yeah. And Hunter and I sat down. We had gotten the keys for that place, and we were like pen and paper. We were like, all right, so we have a blank room. And I remember having a call with him because we were going to use it for wholesale, but we had another spot. We had, at that point, we had a spot where we were doing wholesale, and then we were getting this new place. And I was like, I was like, what if we used it as just a store? And he's like, yeah, it's risky though. Like, we don't know if it's going to work. And like, if we used it as partially wholesale, partially a store, maybe it would do that. And I was like, but if we go into it saying that this is going to be a store, we're going to make it work. Like, we're going to find a way, like, it's just going to put us in a position where we like really have to, And he was like, well, I guess. And so eventually we were like, all right, I guess we're just doing a store. So then we get pen and paper in front of us, and we're like, blank room. What do we do here? We've never had a physical location. And dude, I'm telling you, like, we were like finishing each other's sentences. Like, it was like as if there was so much knowledge and things and like taste and stuff that we had built up that like when that paper and pen was there, we were like, oh, and we're gonna do this in this corner, and then it's gonna look like this, and then we're gonna. It was like we were just like firing, And then ideas came together, and then the next 2 months was like one of the coolest like time frames of creative stuff for me. Like, I was like, we were executing pretty much the strategy we had. Like, the vision was like a storefront, and then it was day by day, brick by brick. We were like setting up this whole new thing, and then we opened it up. Like, eventually, it came together, and we were like, what just happened? Like, this thing was dead. Like this was like my family members, friends, everyone was like concerned for me. They were like, oh gosh, like he's still doing it. Okay. He hasn't moved home yet. Oh,
like, poor
gotcha.
guy.
Like, oh wow. I mean, it was dead. Like there was nobody thought that there was any life left in it at all. We changed the name. That was where Kalo soil came into play. We were like, we were you know what's funny is we had the store idea and then we were gonna put window decals up. And then we were like, wait, that name does not make sense on this window. It doesn't. And we were like, so what do we do? And then we just started talking and we had made a list. We were like, well, we want the name to hit all of these checkpoints.
Yeah.
And then weeks go by and finally one just stuck and we were like, that's it. That's the name.
What is it actually just?
Kalo is the Greek word for good.
Okay.
So good soil. So we were trying to like incorporate like the checkpoints were like, we wanted it to feel home, kind of homey for us. Like we're from Kentucky. Soil is important, you know, it's like something that kind of felt like rooted. Yeah. And then the goal at that point was we're going to start a luxury brand. Like we did what we did. Now we want to start something that's like aiming to be luxury.
Yeah.
So we wanted to also have a feel that was luxury that could go and be in any space or runways or whatever, and it makes sense. And then also the words "good soil" come from Matthew 13, which is like a verse in the Bible that talks about like essentially like seeds landing on good soil and like that actually being able to take root and then birth like good things.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, that also feels pretty fitting with where we're at. Like we're really like that's what we're trying to cultivate is like really good soil that can actually like allow things to grow and to build. And so that was where it came. And then and so that was what then the window decals go up. We do a big opening and
well, the opening was the one that I showed up to?
No, so that was the second one. So we did like an opening in the summer. And that was like close friends, but dude, it was magical. Like it was the whole group, the same group of people that we started with. Yeah. Were all there except for like one or two. And we were like, oh my gosh, like this, it felt like, okay, we're like, it was just new life.
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna do it again,
oh my gosh, we're really ready to like go. And then at that point I hadn't even been sewing. Like you remember, like I literally, that was a year and a few months ago. Yeah. I hadn't sewn for probably a year and a half. Hadn't designed anything for 2 years, been like a long time. And then it was like 1 week, I was like, I felt like it was time to start sewing again. And I was like, okay, well, I want to be in some rooms with people that really know what they're doing. Yeah. And not even a week later, this guy comes into the store who is a good friend of mine now, but I didn't know him in the moment. He walked in with his girlfriend. We invited his girlfriend in. And then he's a designer for ERL. Jack, you've met him too, I think. It was Jack Bassett, but he did some stuff. He was the one who I think when I was first trying to find a place to like do what you do, he was like, well, I'm doing a sample with Turnkey and like with Eli. And so I like also like through him kind of got connected to you, both with Nick and then also with him.
Okay, cool.
But anyways, 1 week, I was like, dude, I really feel like I want to start sewing again. Like, can I come learn from you? And do you want to make some clothes together sometime? Which is like a funny like question too. Like, I was like, can we make clothes together?
Like
you know,
side by side.
Right. That was literally what I was like, I just want to have fabric and machines, and then like just be in a room with somebody else that's like doing it. And next thing you know, we're there, and he's teaching me everything about patterning, teaching me everything about like everything, all the gaps in knowledge that I really
Jack guy? Who? Oh, that's what does he look like? That was the one guy. Long hair.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Long hair, cool looking dude. Kind of looks like with the trench, he looks like Keanu Reeves.
Yes, exactly like Keanu.
Yeah, he's awesome. Such a good dude. I'm not joking. 2 weeks, he was just like teaching me everything. We went through a crash course of all of it. And so then I was like, I mean, that's what's led to this last year and a half. Like I would not have been sewing if he wasn't like so open-handed and just like teaching me all this stuff. And then I started sewing, and that was where I was like, we transitioned from like the store was vintage to like now there's a rack that has denim on it. And we were like, oh, this is cool. We got our own product again. Like it's been years. We haven't had anything that was our own that was really there. And then it started selling, and like people were actually like buying into this idea, and like the world of Kalo soil kept building out more and more. And then I'm like, all right, I have something I have to say. Like there's been years of like stuff, and a collection's the best way to do it. I had so many ideas. So that was where we did that like made in house collection, which I mean, it was what we called it. It was really just like, okay, we're going to spray and pray again. We're just going to throw everything, all these ideas out, and we're going to see what sticks. We're going to see what lands. And that was what that event was that you came to. It was like I spent, a month and a half, 2 months glued to a sewing machine. I didn't know how to make a suit. I made a suit. I didn't know how to make, you name it. Literally all of the things that were on the rack, we had like 30 products. Didn't know how to do any of it. And then I was figuring it out all out on the fly, tweaking details. And then last second before that event, I'm like, well, I need to grade these things. I've never done that. I don't even know how to do that. So that's when we came in to see you that one day.
Okay,
and then,
so
and
crazy.
then now and then somehow, right, like all of that stuff. And then at the store, we finally like kind of, again, the world was built, new things were happening. Stylists started to come in that were pulling vintage originally. Like they were like, oh, they have cool eye for stuff. Like they're cool vintage things. And again, that was like my way of understanding and like figuring out what I wanted was looking at vintage. I was like, this is like the best way for me to like get a grasp of what's missing or what's worked and what I want to do to what's worked or whatever.
Perfect,
And so they would come in and they would like really enjoy the vintage stuff. And then one stylist in specific, like we clicked and she did like a shoot with Dominic Fike for like YSL. And he was like wearing literally like a white t-shirt, nothing crazy at all. It was like a blank white 90s t-shirt. And then it was same stylist. Then I'm in the gym 6 months ago one morning with one of my roommates, and I look at my phone, and she goes, hey, guys, got a big shoot coming up for Kendrick. 4-day shoot, all caps. Huge video. Can you guys send over what you got? And lo and behold, I'd been making stuff every day. Like, I sew all the time. It's like, I love it. I want to be sewing. It's like I live for it. So I'd been working on a bunch of samples for stuff. And then I also had just taken my first ever, like, real trip to like source vintage that was like specifically like this is for styling. Like I remember thinking in my head, we didn't even have stylists really reaching out like that, but I was like, I want this stuff because I want to have it for when stylists reach out so that there's like, I don't know, just like stuff that paints the picture of what this brand is that I maybe haven't made yet. That's like there that they can kind of grasp onto. So anyways, I had so much stuff. She sent that text and it was like, I was like, oh my God, I have like...
I have a bunch.
I have so much stuff, and I have some samples, whatever. So I sent him over a bunch of vintage, and then I think I sent over like 2 or 3 samples, right? And of those samples, black zip-up hoodie. And then I didn't send over anything else. I sent over a couple other things, but like not a whole lot. And then they kind of gave me their picks of what they wanted, and the black hoodie as well as like some of the vintage was in that. So I go to drop it off, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going to happen. I got no idea, like... There was really no expectation around it. It was just kind of like, well, that's cool. I don't know. We're just like, my focus again, like I've mentioned, like this last 2 years has really been around like the craft. And so like the byproduct, I'm not really ever thinking about. So when that happens, I was like, oh, cool. That's fun. But I'm gonna go back to my garage. I'm gonna go back and sew some more. And anyways, I was in the gym like a week later and they had done the fitting and I got a fitting photo of him wearing that black hat and the black zip-up hoodie that I sent over. It was a black hat that I threw in last second, too. Like, I was just sitting there. I was like, this is a sample, like, idea. Maybe he'd wear it. I didn't even think in my head, oh, Kendrick Lamar wears hats all the time. I was like, I was just like, oh, I have a hat here. That might work. Tossed it in with the stuff and ends up wearing it. And, again, we're like, oh, cool. Like, that's really – like, it was like an honest reaction of, like, wow, that's insane. But, like – dude, it was like almost, again, it's like a byproduct. It's like, that's cool, but what we were so focused on still is like this craft and what we're making. And then it wasn't until the video came out where I watched it and then I was like, oh, whoa, that's big. I was like, that's like a big, like.
It's a huge moment.
People don't, I was like, again, this thing was dead. And now there's, like, it was this full circle, like, oh my gosh. We have been through a crazy ride. Like it was nuts. And I didn't realize it until like, grandparents and family members that I would have never expected to know Kendrick Lamar were like,
I thought I knew Kendrick.
You got stuff on Kendrick Lamar. I was like, I suppose I did. I don't know how I got here, but yeah. And so, yeah, anyways, that was like a good full circle crazy thing that it was just like a testament to like, yeah, like where, I don't know, just all of it, like where it's going and there's still being like life on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. Really, really insane moment.
That's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of ups and downs. And
yeah.
So where are you guys at now that you feel like after, so now I think what I would be like scared about would be like, you're used to these ups and downs and like super highs, super lows.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're just trying to find like, I want peace and like balance.
Just
like
neutrality a little bit.
Yeah, just like, okay, I just want to sell stuff.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself like, how do you feel about that now that you're at this, that was a high and then it wasn't just that, it was like the Super Bowl thing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So it's like, talk about that.
And so like, so there was the Super Bowl too, which was like the follow-up, which was crazy too. Like that had happened again. And I was like, this is insane. And I sent so much vintage that I was so happy about, but he chose the one thing out of like a couple that were like, I could make a couple more of these. Like if it was just vintage, like imagine a world where like he just chose to wear a regular vintage hoodie that I sent over.
Yeah.
Been cool, but there wouldn't have been anything. I wouldn't have like what would I have done more at that point? I probably would have gotten a lot more vintage.
More vintage, yeah.
And so, but he wore something that I made, and I was like, oh my gosh. So then about a month later, get another text, and they're like, hey, huge video, another thing coming up.
Yeah.
Can't really say much of what it's for. It's for Kendrick, just so you know, and the fitting's in a week. And I'm like, so I'm going to be making clothes nonstop until that exact last second that I had to drop those things off. So I did that. I was just like, I had so many ideas, so many patterns, like it was just flowing. So I locked in and just in the garage making a bunch of stuff. And then, the fitting got postponed. So I'm like, cool, I got a couple more weeks. And so I got more time and I kept on making new stuff. And that was when I was talking to you too. I was like, dude, I made like 50 things or something stupid. It was like,
you're like, print this out.
I was running down here for prints. I was going to get fabric over here. I was getting hardware over here. It was new stuff. I never made certain, like these were all like new things that I had never really touched into. Like I was like, I don't really know how to make fill in the blank. Yeah. And then I'd be like, so I had to figure it out in 8 hours. Cool. And I would make the pattern, and then I would like YouTube kind of figure out some like weird little tricks to like make sure it sits and fits right and the zipper goes in right or this, whatever, And so anyways, that was crazy. And then we drop all that stuff off. And anyways, that was like that's what led to that Super Bowl announcement. And then like, I think some things internally happened like creatively with their team too, where they like, we're going to do a music video. And then he just decided to do the black Air Forces, like that photo instead of the music video. But they're gearing up for like a bunch of stuff. So I have no idea what, but they were just like, I think that Super Bowl thing was like a good, like, which also would be insane to like Super Bowl. Like,
that's crazy.
To put clothes on that person, and then also for that stage would be unreal.
That'd be amazing.
And then there's been like a few others that haven't like been like come out yet with like other artists and other people that like are also crazy too. So we're in this weird space of time where like there's these people that are like building up. So now I'm like, again, you don't want to like get into this crazy high and low motion that happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is where, again, it comes down to that, holding that tension. Because like what put us back in that position to like even have that opportunity was because I was protecting the space of creative stuff, which is so important to me. Like I it's so important that I touch clothes and that I like actually sew and make stuff. So now it's like, okay, we have protected that and let's like keep that where it's at. And then as business things start to happen, then learn how we're going to hold this balance really well. And like keep, slow and steady, just like little by little, the same way the last year and a half's been with it. Like we've just been day by day, one step after another, no idea what's coming around the corner, but just like little by little by little by little. And that's been nice because it's not like, I mean, there's one direction you could take with something like that video happening where we could have been like, let's just like grind this out like nonstop. Because the hat was like what we sold a good amount of. Like we could have been like, let's do 1,000 hats. Let's keep going, and like promo it like crazy. But we were like, no, like this is what sold. This is what we're gonna make, and then we're gonna let it sell out. Yeah. Be done with it. Just let it sit and be done with it, and then go to the next step, and then go to the next step, and go to the next step, and not be in like this. Because like what that comes from too is like the fear of it never happening again. Yeah, exactly. You want to take a moment and be like, I have to hold on to this. It's never gonna happen again. But I had to really be like, it'll happen again. Yeah. Like, I mean, and I like even just that moment was like a testament that it will happen again. Because I had a moment. Yeah. It went back to just me. It was crazy. It was awful. It was like really tough. Yeah. To then we're in this moment again, and I'm like, why would I if I didn't learn anything if I grab this moment bare knuckle, like just white knuckle this thing and never let it go, like then I didn't learn anything from the last couple years where I like did do that and then like didn't learn how to like just go little by little and keep just inching your way up. But yeah, anyways, damn, that's the spot now. Got a lot of fun stuff that I'm making. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's a whole lot of story. Yeah. To be honest, like.
Yeah. Whole lot.
I would have never thought, but I think that for me it's just like it's scary to think that you were in so many ups and downs. And it reminds me a lot of when I was young, when I had my story. Mm-hmm. And like the difference between you and I is that you stuck with it. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I couldn't do it anymore. So I pivoted. Yeah. Which was the best thing to ever happen to me. Yeah. But for you, you actually had like serious success with it. Yeah. Which like really brings you where you're at now.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean? And it's just like sticking with it. You understand the issues that you had. And it's just like, all right, how do we fix it? Sell clothes. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of like work it through, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good, dude. I don't know. I feel so like right now. I feel so like it could tank. Like I really am not like, I don't know. I'm like, I recognize like the time aspect of like, okay, been doing it for 5 years. Cool. This is what I'm like, I love. This is my like true passion thing that I love more than anything. If I could wake up, I would be like, I want to make clothes. Like that's what I want to do. And I get to do that. And like, I've been fortunate enough to like spend 5 years doing just that. So I got another, dude, I don't know when I'll retire, but I got another like 50 or 60 years. Oh, yeah. So it's like, why? I don't know. I'm like, I mean, I want to just like, there's a lot of time. Yeah. And I want to still hold true to like recognizing that, but then being like, but I'm in this moment right now. So what does this moment need of me? And what do I want to make? And what do I want to say right now? And not be like lethargic and be like, oh, eventually it'll happen. Like I still want to keep that same drive because that's so important. Like that was what got us even out here was that drive to be like, I have something to say and I want to scream it on the rooftops, you know? And so that for me is like a delicate balance now where I have to recognize like, you know, it's a long thing, but also like I want to right now express what I have to express and say it and be loud and like have that drive and really like go after it. But yeah, it's a fun business. It's really, really fun. Clothing is fun, dude. It's like, it's so different from anything else. And it's like, I don't know. I have friends that are in music. I have friends that are in film and like friends that do all kinds of different like creative mediums. But clothing is just something, I don't know what it is, dude.
Something about it, you know.
It's so interesting.
Clothes, garments, it makes you feel a certain way. Yeah. Music does too, but it's about when you put on an outfit and then you walk outside, you just become this person. You could be, one guy could be wearing a tight shirt and the other guy could be wearing a shirt with the sleeves cut off. And it's just like a completely different outfit. And then that person becomes a whole nother person, like a different body.
It's all just like
this is who I am.
Communicating.
And that's
you're just like so saying something. Like as you're doing it, like you're just like that cut off shirt person is saying one thing they may not even be aware of that the tight shirt person is saying something completely different. And you look at each other and you kind of know, you know, a little bit. Like even if it's subconscious, you kind of know. I think it's so interesting with clothing too that it's like, it's the most consumed, I don't know, medium of anything creative.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone listens to music. Not everyone watches movies. Not everyone buys paintings and has them in their home.
Yeah.
Everyone has to wear clothes. Unless you're a little
Always.
crazy, which
Yeah,
you
no,
could. I
yeah.
mean, you don't have to wear clothes,
And
but
it becomes the
pretty
person
much
that you are.
everyone wears clothes.
Yeah,
and
forever.
like a lot of people, it's weird for me. Like when I look at that and go, okay, everybody wears clothes, but why does music feel so tangible to people? Like why can people buy into music so much in the way they do? Like so globally, everyone has music they enjoy and love. Doesn't matter what your age is, what you do, whatever. You have music
I think
you
it's
love.
like the cost of entry, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
just be
which you're
like,
right.
Free.
Exactly.
But the clothes, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
what if
And
I
even
have to
movies
return
too.
it?
It's
Yeah,
like movies are so digestible in that way too,
Yeah.
where you can like very, very cheap price get in there and get it. But fashion doesn't have that. Like clothing really doesn't have that like easy gateway kind. It's not tangible. You can't touch it for like the same price you could music.
Yeah.
That's something like I'm like really passionate about changing. Like I want to like flip that completely.
Yeah.
Like I want clothing to feel as tangible and as consumable as like music does. And that way, because it's
tough though, which is kind of tough.
It is.
Yeah.
But I like that. I want to see, I don't know what that looks like and what that space could be, but I want to know how to like, that's like where I want clothing to go, you know, is like this, something that people can actually like grasp and get a hold of. Cause like until getting into production, I didn't know how this stuff was even made. Like most people don't know. Like they really have no idea how anything's made, how any of this stuff happens. But again, if you listen to a song you like, you know that there's probably a guitar on it, and you know that how a guitar works.
Yeah, exactly.
With clothing, you don't have. You don't even know what, like, you know, it's a sewing machine, but do you know the 50,000 different types you can have, and like where things come from and how how it all comes to be. Like that's the thing that I think would be so cool for people to like understand and get, is if they could see, you know, like if it was more like they could see it and like tangibly like grab a hold of it.
I guess that ends up now becoming kind of like your job, right? Like show people what is going on.
Yeah.
That's what we try to do. You know?
100%.
Like, this is what, like how it's done.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool too, because like, it gives people that little bit of, I mean, that's how everything I've picked up. Like I didn't go to any traditional schooling.
Yeah, same.
So it's all been like through people giving that little open-handed, like, here's a little nugget of information, you know, like you want to learn how to do this thing, and there's 50 videos on YouTube you can watch for how to do that thing. But it all comes from people like kind of inviting into that space so you can actually understand it. Cause it's like, before I learned how to do it, it was like so daunting. I was like, I don't know anything at all. And then you start doing it, you're like, this is way more simple than you'd ever imagine.
Yeah, and it's like, I think a thing of like doing it, like even when I get on my CAD program, and it's just like, even like my friends or like some of my clients are like, how do you even know how to do this? I'm like, I don't even know. You just learn.
Yeah.
And you just know shit. You know? Like,
you just kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with Kalo now too. I'm like, it's like an extension of my brain. I'm not even, I'm like so not even thinking about it that like people around me are like watching me play with that program sometimes and they're like, I would lose my mind. I don't even know what
like,
you're doing. And I was like,
I'm like, oh, it's easy.
So simple to me now. I'm like, I didn't think that when I started, but you know, eventually it kind of started to make sense. Yeah. So that's cool.
All right. So what's coming up next for you right now? Like, what do you have planned?
So with Kalo, I think we're going to do, the goal with Kalo is to do like, to really start to get into like seasonal collections, which we're like kind of starting to showcase some of that stuff. Like my thought with where Kalo will kind of land, and it's a group project. So Kalo is like a collective of thought. Like I design and I make all the clothing with Dylan too. He also like makes clothing with me, but like a lot of the design, I'm the one doing that aspect. And then Hunter is also a visionary that we like pair up and we're like, okay, where does this thing kind of go? What's the world? Yeah. And I think both of us are like, we want this thing to go into the high fashion space, and we want it to go into like runway probably, and like that whole world. That for me is like where I see that thing happen, like going in collections. But for myself, like in the long run, like I've started at the beginning of this year, like a dream of now doing a new label called Sully. And I haven't like started. I mean, well, I say that, and literally just this last week, I was kind of sitting and thinking about what I've been working on for the last month or two, and I was like, I think I might have started that thing and not even known it.
Yeah.
But I've worked in group projects now for a little while where like originally when I started Unexpected, it was mine, and then it became a group. It was a group thing, but it was more heavily, I was doing a lot more.
Yeah.
And then it became a group thing, and then Kalo's been a group thing, and so this is like
it's a single project.
Yeah, but also, I mean, like, I can't imagine doing stuff without the people around me. It's just like, it'll be a project that like I feel will be more personal with what I'm doing and all that stuff. And that one, that's the one that like I have some pretty lofty ideas for, like really like crazy, like what would sound crazy, but what I'm like, we're gonna do this, you know? Like I don't ever want to touch a runway, and I want like with that brand, like it'll be like stretching out a ton of different, you know, types of products, and I want it to be like very, I don't know, in that high fashion space where it's luxury, like really, really high quality clothing and really good stuff. But I don't ever want to do a runway, and I want that thing to be like, people will be like, why have we been doing runways? Like I want them to see the way that that presentation comes about, and then the whole runway thing, people will be like, oh yeah, this doesn't really make any sense. Like it's not really getting to anybody, you know? And then that would, like that's the lofty component, is like there's a way of presenting that label, not just like socials, but I'm talking like collections, like how collections are showcased that I want to do. That's like people that like it'll flip that whole runway system, you know? Like I want it to be like, I don't ever want to like make a collection. Like with Kalo, it's different because it's a group project. Like I want that to be like something where our collective brain comes together and finds a way to execute a luxury label that's really good and like has a vision and is seen through. But with Sully, like that one's like so personal to me, where I'm like, I don't ever want to make something and then invite a front row of people that are like,
oh yeah,
drive me crazy. Because it's like the especially if it's at that caliber and it's something where I'm like, it's a collection and it's something that I've invested so much of my like everything. It's all like so vulnerable. It's like all this is my life. This is like, sure, it may have been a few months of development or a year of development, but it's 20 something years of life that then went into this, to then have somebody just be like, and then posting it. Like, and that's it. And it's like, oh, okay, well then we'll go until next spring. And that's how everything's so fast and like over consumed, and there's so much waste, is like we're all on this crazy schedule that just doesn't make any sense, and no one's making things to really last. It's like, let's make something to work right now, and then people buy into it, and then once they buy into it, then in a few months we gotta have a new idea, so that way they get into that one, and then people just keep buying. We keep wasting. Like it's just, I would rather with like collections do like once every couple years. Like I love the way that like music artists can release an album and people be hooked on it for like a year or two. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this next album to come out, you know?
But
like
I think it's just the era that we're in too.
I know.
Because a lot of the music now is just like, it's digested and spit out. It's like, all right, next guy.
Right, which is kind of what fashion is.
Clothing,
and it's very similar. But I do think like there's good music artists where they'll go years, and when they've gone that long, people are like, they're starving people like to like want something from them. And like, I feel like I would hope that like clothing would also kind of go in that direction, where like you can make stuff that's so good and like actually like it's timeless in a way where like it lasts a few years, and people are like, this is awesome. Like I don't want to have someone just discard this idea in 6 months and then get a new one, you know? But yeah, there's all kinds of like practicals and obstacles to like figuring that out.
Yeah, it's super
because it's like it's so counter how everything works in
fashion and clothing and like trends.
But that's like that's all the vision within that like world of Sully, and that's something that like I feel like I'm just in the last week like starting to kind of see what that could even look like. But started making some clothing for it, which is cool. Like just to see like visually maybe what could fall into that category and like start to make sense there. But
well,
it'd be fun.
I'm glad you shared this here first.
There we go.
Before we
100%.
really get into it, because it'd be cool to look back.
Yeah, yeah.
at this moment and be like, oh yeah, remember when you talked about it, and now it's in fruition like 6 months later.
Dude, yeah, 100%.
And honestly, dude, I thank you so much for like sharing your whole story.
Yeah, a lot. There's a whole lot of stuff.
To be honest with you, I didn't know Sully like any story of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that you got to really express yourself here, and like for me to really understand who you are, and it puts you in a whole nother light. Like honestly, even for me, who you were as a person, I thought you know just like a random cool kid making clothes.
Yeah.
And now I look at you as someone else who's like worked hard, persevered, and done so much.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you taking the time to
100%.
share your story here with us.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to me yap for a good while.
Oh, of course.
All the stories. Yeah.
And that concludes episode 7.
7.
Thank you. Later, guys.